It is a bright and beautiful day outside, but inside the palace, the atmosphere could not be more different. Yan Wu marches through the grand hallway with a sword clenched tightly in her hand. The noble ladies gasp in horror when they notice blood running down her palm. Her attendants rush after her, desperately begging her to stop and seek treatment, but she ignores them completely. Her eyes are hollow, devoid of warmth, and fixed on a single destination. She makes her way directly to the throne room, where the king sits in all his royal splendor. The moment he sees her, a smile spreads across his face. With exaggerated delight, he announces that she has finally arrived and jokes that she has come to personally congratulate her husband on his birthday. Yan Wu does not smile. Instead, she stares at him with cold determination. The king's cheerful expression begins to falter as he senses the tension surrounding her. He orders her to stop acting recklessly, but she responds with a firm refusal. Confusion flashes across his face, followed by amusement. He wonders if this is yet another attempt on his life after her previous failed assassination. The surrounding officials burst into laughter, treating her as nothing more than a joke. Their mockery only deepens her fury. She tightens her grip on the sword until its edge cuts deeper into her skin, drawing fresh blood. Looking directly at her husband, she tells him that he should have killed her along with the rest of her family. He should have left her corpse for the crows rather than forcing her to live after slaughtering innocent people. The king calmly dismisses her words. He insists that he could never kill the woman he loves. Those words shatter the last fragments of restraint within her. A smile twists across her face, one bordering on madness. She asks how he dares speak of love after everything he has done. Tears stream down her cheeks as she reminds him of the day he exterminated her entire family and displayed their severed heads at the city gates. Even hearing his name makes her tremble with hatred, yet he still insists this nightmare is love. The king gazes at her with unsettling certainty. To him, it is love. He tells her that she belongs to him and him alone. Only then does the mark branded above her chest become noticeable, a permanent symbol of his obsession and possessiveness. The king proudly declares that she is his forever. Yan Wu screams in defiance. She insists that she belongs to no one. The king approaches her slowly. He gently takes her hand and lifts her face toward his. Looking into her eyes, he once again tells her that she is his. Then, with a disturbingly tender gesture, he kisses her fingers before turning away. Something inside Yan Wu finally breaks. Maniacal laughter erupts from her lips, echoing throughout the throne room. She calls him insane and curses herself for ever becoming involved with someone like him. For the first time, genuine fear appears in the king's eyes. He senses that something is terribly wrong. Turning back toward her, he sees her raise the sword to her own throat. A chilling smile stretches across her face as she presses the blade against her skin. The king immediately panics. Cold sweat forms on his forehead as he orders her to hand over the weapon. But Yan Wu only smiles wider. She declares that he will never truly possess her. The only person capable of taking her life is herself. Then, before anyone can stop her, she drags the blade across her neck. Blood sprays into the air. The king screams her name and rushes forward. In the underworld, where eternal darkness reigns, the king's birthday is the only day Yan Wu is allowed to see the blue sky. Since he treasured this day so much, she decided to give him a birthday gift he would never forget. As he cradles her dying body and breaks down in tears, she softly whispers a heartfelt happy birthday. Desperate, the king screams for the royal physician. Guards scatter in every direction to obey his command. Yan Wu, however, remains calm. She tells him that because he wronged her, this day will become the beginning of a lifetime of suffering. As chaos erupts around them, her gaze drifts across the gathered crowd. Among the countless faces, one man catches her attention. Tears are streaming down his cheeks. She does not recognize him. A strange thought enters her mind. Is he crying for her? For a brief moment, she wishes he would stop looking at her with such sadness. After all, this is the culmination of her revenge. She should be savoring her victory. As her life slips away, she closes her eyes and prays to Tamiya, the god of the underworld. She confesses that she cannot understand why fate forced her to endure such suffering. But she knows one thing for certain. She never wants to live this life again. If there is another world beyond death, she would rather disappear completely than ever meet Hyojo again. Then everything changes. Yan Wu suddenly opens her eyes. Confusion floods her mind as she looks around. Falling to her knees, she cries out in despair and demands to know why she has been brought back once more. The horrifying realization strikes her. Hyojo might be coming. Panic overwhelms her. She desperately tries to flee, but her legs refuse to move. Then a voice speaks behind her. Turning around, she finds herself staring at an incredibly handsome man mounted on a horse. He gazes at her with astonishment and softly remarks that she appears to be someone from Earth. Yan Wu quickly realizes that this is not the same person she encountered in her previous life. Before she can process this discovery, another voice calls out nearby. Looking over, she freezes. Her father is there, so is her younger sister. Even her mother stands beside them. They are all alive. Tears instantly fill her eyes. The mysterious horseman observes the group and comments that they seem to have been involved in some kind of accident. He asks whether they are injured. Her father assures him that everyone is fine before becoming distracted by the man's unusual clothing. Assuming there must be a television drama filming nearby, he asks if he can borrow a phone because his own stopped working after the accident. The horseman looks completely confused by the request, but decides to help anyway. He orders one of his guards to escort the family to Lord Jang Kong. The moment Yen Wu hears that name, her heart nearly stops. Lord Jang Kong is the ruler of the underworld. More importantly, he is Hojo's father. If events continue as before, she knows she could soon encounter Hojo again. That cannot happen. Desperately, she begins searching for a way to escape with her family. Yet before she can act, her younger sister notices something strange. Yan Wu's hair has changed color. Looking down, she discovers that her hair is now a brilliant silver. The horseman compliments its beauty and admits that he has never seen such radiant hair before. He then politely asks her to accompany him. Her father immediately objects, demanding to know why only his eldest daughter must go. The stranger reassures him that the family will be reunited after meeting Lord Jang Kong. But her father remains suspicious. Memories of her family's tragic deaths from her previous life flood her mind. Guilt crushes her chest. She cannot allow history to repeat itself. After a moment of hesitation, she agrees to go with the horseman. Her sister is shocked. Even Yanwu herself is uncertain. Yet if she wants to avoid Hyojo, she sees no other choice. At that moment, her mother intervenes. Frustrated, she tells everyone to stop pressuring Yanwu. She accuses her daughter of always doing things her own way without considering how much worry she causes the family. When Yan Wu tries to explain, her mother cuts her off and tells her to do whatever she wants. As her family departs with the guard, Yan Wu silently watches them leave. Deep inside, she makes a solemn vow. This time, she will protect them. No matter what. The mysterious horseman remarks that she is an unusual woman. Most people would never agree to be left alone with a stranger under such circumstances. Yan Wu extends her hand and calmly says that she has little choice. She is certain he wishes to discuss something important. The man takes her hand and gently kisses it, saying that it is an honor to hold the hand of such a beautiful woman in the underworld. Then he asks what she wants from him. Yan Wu takes a deep breath. This is her third life in the underworld. Every time she dies here, she eventually returns to this same place. Having endured 2 lifetimes of suffering, she has learned one undeniable truth. No one can escape the underworld, and no one can remain hidden from Hyojo forever. The thought of reliving her previous fate fills her with despair. She would rather die. Gathering every ounce of courage she possesses, she looks directly into the stranger's eyes and makes a shocking request. She tells him to claim her as his own. The horseman blinks in disbelief. He points out that asking such a thing from someone she has only just met is incredibly bold. He wonders whether she truly understands the meaning behind her words. Without hesitation, Yen Wu answers that she does. Because if becoming his woman is what it takes to escape Hyojo's grasp, then she is willing to do whatever it takes. The stranger can only stare at her in complete confusion. The mysterious man leaned closer and gently tucked a strand of Yan Wu's hair behind her ear. Studying her expression, he remarked that her confession seemed strangely sad. He wondered aloud why someone proposing to become his woman would wear such a mournful expression. His curiosity about her continued to grow, but he made one thing clear. He would not accept a woman he knew nothing about. Before he could say anything more, Yan Wu interrupted him. She insisted that he had no choice but to accept her. She quickly laid out her reasoning. Normally, when outsiders arrived in the underworld, they would either receive medical attention or be sent home. Instead, he had arranged for her family to be taken to meet Lord Jang Kong. That alone suggested there were special rules governing their situation. Furthermore, he had specifically requested to speak with her in private, meaning he had already broken protocol for her sake. A sharp smile appeared on her face as she asked whether her conclusions were wrong. The man smiled back, clearly amused. He admitted that her request was far more complicated than it first appeared. Rather than answering directly, he suddenly lifted her into his arms and effortlessly placed her on his horse. Then he proposed a deal. As he had already explained, he did not accept strangers. More importantly, he doubted that she genuinely wished to become his woman. He could tell there was another motive hidden behind her words. He asked her to be honest. What was it that she truly wanted? Looking down at him from atop the horse, Yan Wu finally revealed her real wish. No matter what happened to her, she begged him to protect them. The man smiled softly. At last, he understood. Without another word, he mounted the horse behind her and urged it into a gallop. As they rode through the underworld, he pointed out that they had not yet exchanged names. Introducing himself as Haida, he asked for hers. Yan Wu introduced herself properly. For the first time in what felt like ages, she allowed herself to relax. Closing her eyes, she enjoyed the wind brushing against her face. It had been a very long time since she had experienced such freedom. Haida complimented her name, calling it beautiful. After some time, they finally arrived at their destination, Haida explained that they were entering through the castle's rear entrance. Before proceeding, he advised her to keep her silver hair hidden because it attracted too much attention. As Yan Wu glanced toward the entrance, a cluster of flowers nearby immediately caught her eye. Noticing her interest, Haida explained that these flowers existed only in the underworld. Since the realm was perpetually covered in darkness and illuminated only by the red glow of lava, the flowers survived by feeding on the ash produced by those fiery pits. After listening to his explanation, Yan Wu simply nodded. However, the flowers stirred unpleasant memories. A flashback surfaced in her mind. She remembered Hyojo once giving her those very same flowers and telling her they bloomed as beautifully as she did. The memory instantly filled her with disgust. She stared at the flowers with open hatred. Haida noticed her reaction but wisely chose not to comment. Whatever memories those flowers carried, he understood they were painful. To Yan Wu, they represented something far worse than beauty. They were a reminder that she had returned to the very place she despised. Just then, the rear door opened. A woman stepped outside and called for Haida. She informed him that everyone had been waiting for his return. The moment Yan Wu heard the woman's voice, her eyes widened. She recognized it immediately. The woman approached with a warm smile and introduced herself as Serim. She explained that she would be assisting Yan Wu from now on. The sight of her triggered another powerful memory. Yan Wu remembered lying in bed during her previous life, while Serim sat beside her, holding her hands and comforting her. Serim had encouraged her to admit when she was suffering and promised that she would always remain by her side. Back in the present, a bittersweet smile appeared on Yan Wu's face. She was genuinely happy to see Serim again. Serim informed her that her family had already been settled into comfortable accommodations. At first, this news brought relief. Then realization struck. Serim had once been one of Hyojo's subordinates. Confusion immediately filled her mind. Why was everything different? Meanwhile, Haida instructed Serim to help Yan Wu settle in. He requested that her silver hair be dyed another color, any color at all, as long as it was less noticeable. He also ordered her to be given a bath and a fresh change of clothes before being brought to his chamber. Yan Wu blinked in surprise. Haida simply smiled mischievously and informed her that they would be spending the night together. Later, as Serim guided Yan Wu through the enormous residence, she cheerfully explained that this would now be her home and encouraged her to explore freely. Yan Wu thanked her but seemed noticeably uncomfortable. After gathering her courage, she finally spoke. She asked Serim not to address her so formally. She preferred a more casual relationship between them. She also wanted to clear up what she believed was a misunderstanding. Despite Haida's earlier comments, there was nothing romantic happening between them. Before she could finish, Serim shook her head. She explained that Haida himself had addressed her respectfully, making it inappropriate for a servant to speak casually to her. Then Serim revealed something even more surprising. This was the first time Haida had ever brought a woman home. Yan Wu was genuinely shocked. Her mind immediately returned to the memory of Haida kissing her hand. Despite that gesture, he had never struck her as someone interested in romance. Serim looked as though she wanted to say more, but stopped herself. After a moment, she quietly admitted that it was not her place to discuss the matter. Still, she was certain of one thing. Yan Wu was special to Haida. Hearing those words left Yan Wu even more confused. As they continued walking, she asked Serim what kind of person Haida truly was. In response, Serim asked if she knew anything about guardian spirits. Pretending ignorance, Yan Wu admitted that she had never heard of them. Serim immediately began explaining. Everyone born in the underworld possessed the spirit of a beast. These supernatural entities were known as guardian spirits. Some were weak, such as rabbits or sparrows. Others were tremendously powerful, such as tigers that stood at the top of the natural hierarchy. In moments of extreme danger, people could manifest their guardian spirits. The stronger the spirit, the stronger and more respected the individual became. Yan Wu listened attentively despite already knowing all of this. She knew that the king possessed a tiger spirit. She also knew that Hyojo's guardian spirit was a brown bear. Then Serim revealed Haida's spirit. He possessed the spirit of a black wolf. Because of this, many people referred to him as the Black Wolf. A look of realization crossed Yan Wu's face. Thinking back to their first meeting, she could not deny that the title suited him perfectly. Later, Yan Wu found herself relaxing in a warm bath while Serim and several maids discussed potential hair colors. The maids insisted that her fair complexion would suit almost any shade. After some consideration, Serim jokingly suggested dyeing it black to match Haida's hair. Seeing Serim's enthusiasm brought a smile to Yan Wu's face. The Serim she remembered from her previous life had never been particularly sociable. This cheerful and lively version felt both familiar and strangely new. As she watched her, Yan Wu remembered the promise Serim had once made, a promise to remain by her side no matter what happened. Because it was Serim, Yan Wu wanted to believe that promise still held true. So many things had already changed. The place where she should have encountered Hyojo had instead led her to Haida. She had met Serim in Haida's residence rather than Hyojo's castle. Even her appearance had changed. Her silver hair remained an unsolved mystery. Picking up a few strands, she stared at them with discomfort. Sarum quickly stopped her, warning that the dye might stain her hands. As Yan Wu sat quietly in the bath, a strange feeling settled over her. Everything was different this time. The altered encounters, the changed circumstances, the silver hair, each difference seemed to be pointing toward a single truth. This life would not follow the same path as the ones before it. For the first time since returning to the underworld, Yan Wu began to wonder whether fate itself was giving her a chance to rewrite her future. For the first time since arriving in the underworld, Yan Wu felt a small spark of hope. Maybe this life would be different. Maybe, just this once, fate would allow things to unfold in a way she had only ever dreamed of. Her thoughts were interrupted when Sir suddenly cried out in frustration. The maid explained that she had carefully applied the dye to Yan Wu's hair, but it refused to change color. The only effect was that it had dulled the brilliant shine of the silver strands. Yan Wu calmly assured her that it was fine. As long as the hair no longer attracted attention, that was enough. Sir, however, looked genuinely disappointed. She admitted that she had secretly hoped to make Yan Wu's hair match Hida's black hair. Yan Wu stared at her in disbelief. So that had been her goal all along. Unable to help herself, she laughed softly and reassured the maid that it could not be helped. She even complimented Sir's own hair color before thanking her for all her hard work. Satisfied, Sir finally excused herself and left Yan Wu alone to enjoy her bath. As the warm water soothed her body, Yan Wu reflected on everything that had happened since her arrival. Her thoughts eventually returned to Hida. He had proposed a deal, yet she realized she still did not fully understand what he wanted from her. A faint sense of uncertainty crept into her heart. Still, Sir's words lingered in her mind. Could she really be special to him? If she was, perhaps he would protect her and her family regardless of any conditions attached to their agreement. Eventually, she stepped out of the bath and wrapped a robe around herself. Just as she was adjusting to the cool air, a familiar voice called out from nearby. Hida asked if she had finished bathing. Startled, Yan Wu spun around. Her cheeks instantly flushed. Hida casually admitted that he had heard women usually took a long time to get ready, but honestly, waiting for her had not been unpleasant at all. His words only made her more flustered. Stammering, she demanded to know what he was doing there. Trying to calm the situation, Hida smiled and told her not to be angry. Then, with a playful push, he reminded her that she was the one who had approached him first. After all, she was the one who had asked him to take her as his woman. Embarrassed, Yan Wu immediately looked away. She pointed out that he had already made it clear he did not accept women he did not know. Hida nodded. That was true. But that was exactly why he had come. He explained that they still needed to discuss the terms of their agreement. Since he had accepted her request, it was only fair that she accepted his conditions as well. Curious, Yan Wu asked what those conditions were. A confident smile spread across Hida's face. The answer, he claimed, was simple. From this day forward, he wanted her to become his bride. He calmly stated that he wished for her to become his wife. The proposal immediately irritated her. She accused him of playing with her emotions. Earlier, he had treated her request as unreasonable and practically dismissed it. Now he was suddenly asking her to marry him. Clenching her fists, she demanded to know if he realized how unfair that sounded. Hida listened quietly before gently tucking a few strands of hair behind her ear. Then he apologized. He admitted that he had failed to explain himself properly and had not considered how his actions might affect her feelings. To ask a stranger to take responsibility for her so soon clearly meant she was facing an incredibly difficult situation. And as it turned out, he was facing one as well. His proposal was not a joke, nor was it a lie. He simply needed her to understand his circumstances first. Hida then revealed an important truth about the underworld. Lord Jiang Kong was not only the king, but also the head of the strongest family in the realm. Currently, there were two candidates being considered as his successor. Yan Wu's eyes widened. As far as she remembered, Jiang Kong only had one son. Hida continued. One candidate was Hyojo, Jiang Kong's direct descendant. The second candidate was Hida himself, a distant cousin of the royal family. That revelation shocked her. Hida explained that Hyojo viewed him as an obstacle to the throne. Simply by existing, Hida threatened Hyojo's claim. To prove that he had no interest in becoming the next ruler, he needed a wife who had absolutely no connection to the royal family. Then Yan Wu had appeared. Looking directly at her, he asked whether she would consider becoming his pretend wife. Once she had made her decision, he told her to come to his chambers. Later that evening, dressed in elegant attire, Yan Wu made her way toward Hida's room. As she walked, countless doubts filled her mind. In all her previous lives, she had never heard anyone mention a distant cousin named Hida. How much of his story was true? How much was a lie? In the end, none of it mattered. She had no better option. When she entered the room, Hida welcomed her warmly. Yan Wu had already made up her mind. Whatever his intentions were, she would use every opportunity available to protect herself and her family. If he was using her, then she would use him as well. Hida immediately noticed the determination in her eyes and asked if she had reached a decision. She nodded. She would become his wife. A pleased smile spread across his face. The deal was officially made. Offering her his hand, Hida guided her toward the bed. He explained that they needed to appear convincing. To outsiders, they had to look like two people who had fallen deeply in love at first sight. Slowly, he leaned closer. His lips drifted toward her neck as he asked if she would be comfortable with such displays. Then his attention shifted to her earrings. He remarked that he had specifically instructed Saram not to let her wear them, and wondered if the maid had forgotten. As he leaned closer again, his lips hovering near her ear, everything suddenly changed. A vivid memory exploded inside Yan Wu's mind. She remembered Hyojo. She remembered him leaning close in exactly the same way. His voice echoed through her memories. He had once told her never to forget that the only person allowed to touch her so intimately was him. Terror consumed her. Her eyes widened. Without thinking, she screamed for Hida to let her go. Startled, he immediately stopped. Confusion spread across his face as he loosened his hold on her. But Yan Wu kept screaming. The panic from her past overwhelmed her completely. Though she struggled against him, Hida carefully helped her sit down and released her entirely. He could not understand what had caused such a violent reaction. Outside the room, 3 maids had been listening near the door. One wondered what the noise had been. Another was certain she had heard a woman scream. Saram stepped closer, trying to listen. The other 2 immediately warned her that if she got caught, she would be severely punished. At that exact moment, the door opened. Hida stood there. The 2 maids quickly fled. Only Saram remained. Hida reminded her that he had instructed her to wait for orders, and certainly had not given permission to eavesdrop. Saram calmly replied that she thought he might need assistance on such an important night. Hida sighed. The important night was over, and it would not be happening again. Naturally, Saram asked what had gone wrong. Instead of answering directly, Hida simply told her to see for herself. When Saram entered the room, she found Yan Wu unconscious on the bed. After examining her, Saram concluded that she had merely fainted and would recover after some rest. Curious, she asked what had caused such a reaction. Hida merely replied that he had done nothing. The answer earned him a teasing look. Saram remarked that he was capable in countless situations, yet somehow managed to mishandle this one. Hida ignored the comment. His thoughts remained fixed on Yan Wu. Even before she collapsed, she had never truly been looking at him. It was as though her mind had been trapped somewhere else entirely. He could not stop wondering what haunted her so deeply. Saram encouraged him to be patient and treat her kindly. She reminded him that Yan Wu was important. When Hida admitted he did not know how to help her, Saram changed the subject. She confirmed that she had examined the strange marks on Yan Wu's neck, but still could not identify their origin. She had hoped Hida might discover something during the evening, but given Yan Wu's condition, that would have to wait. Hida nodded. Then he ordered her to keep everything that happened that night completely secret. Saram agreed and departed. Left alone, Hida approached the sleeping woman. Looking down at her, he quietly admitted that she was making him worry. The following morning, Yan Wu suddenly sat upright in bed. The first word out of her mouth was Hyojo's name. Across the room, Hida calmly sipped tea. He asked if she had suffered a nightmare and wondered how she was feeling. Then he explained that she had collapsed the previous night and had worried everyone. Yan Wu struggled to remember what had happened. Hida reassured her that it was fine and encouraged her to eat something first. However, there was one thing he wanted clarified. She had asked for his protection. He had agreed, but he still did not know what she needed protection from. If he was going to help her, he needed the truth. Yan Wu fell silent. How much could she tell him? How much would he believe? After hesitating for a long moment, she finally spoke. She admitted that she once had a husband. She decided to begin much earlier. She started with her childhood. Her family consisted of a strict mother, a loving father, a responsible eldest daughter, and a cheerful younger sister. To outsiders, they appeared completely normal. Yet Yan Wu had always felt like she did not truly belong. She remembered a day at school when her teacher announced an upcoming Parents' Observation Day and instructed everyone to show the family newsletter to their parents. Holding the newsletter, Yan Wu wondered whether she should tell her mother about it. Later that day, she returned home and found the house messy. Growing frustrated, she scolded her younger sister, asking why everything was still a disaster when their parents would be home soon. Although Siwu promised to clean up, Yan Wu only became more irritated. Their argument was interrupted by the sound of the front door opening. Their parents had returned. Siwu immediately ran toward them, excitedly asking to be carried. Meanwhile, Yan Wu stood quietly nearby. The moment her mother looked at her with disapproval, Yan Wu instinctively lowered her head and greeted her with guilt already weighing heavily on her heart. Yan Wu continued telling Hida about her past, beginning with the complicated relationship she had always shared with her mother. After returning home one day, her mother immediately questioned the state of the house. Although Yan Wu tried to blame her younger sister Siwu, she was quickly stopped. Her mother reminded her that she was the older sibling and therefore responsible for taking care of her sister. If the older child behaved properly, the younger one would naturally follow her example. Unable to argue, Yan Wu apologized. Her mother then announced that she was going upstairs to wash up and instructed her to clean the mess before she returned. As Yan Wu silently picked up toys scattered across the floor, she thought about the upcoming parents' observation day at school. In the end, she decided not to mention it. Even if she told her mother she was always busy, Yan Wu did not want to inconvenience her. The following morning, she prepared to leave for school and politely informed everyone that she was heading out. To her surprise, her mother called her back. She asked whether Yan Wu had something important to tell her. Confused, Yan Wu asked what she meant. Her mother calmly reminded her that it was parents' observation day. Why had she not mentioned it? Yan Wu awkwardly admitted that she had not intended to hide it. She simply thought her mother would be too busy and did not want to bother her. Her mother studied her for a moment. Then she instructed Yan Wu to look her directly in the eyes and answer honestly. Did she want her mother to attend? Yan Wu hesitated. Then, quietly, she admitted that she did. More than anything, she wanted her mother to come. It had been so long since she had seen her mother smile. Her mother calmly took a sip of tea before answering. Of course she would attend. It was her daughter's class, after all. She promised that she would see her at school later. For the first time in a long while, Yan Wu felt genuinely happy. She decided that she would work harder than ever before. If her teacher praised her enough, perhaps her mother would feel proud. Maybe she would attend again next time. Maybe she could become a daughter worthy of love. Unfortunately, reality proved far crueler. At the end of the observation day, her mother expressed disappointment. She admitted that she had expected Yan Wu to be the smartest student in the class. After seeing the achievements of the other children, she felt embarrassed. She explained that she had come hoping to see something impressive, but if things remained the same, she would not return again. Yan Wu silently listened. All she wanted was for her mother to keep coming. Her mother continued, saying she had wanted to proudly tell everyone how intelligent and beautiful her daughter was. Since she had been unable to do that, she expected Yan Wu to improve. Only then would she attend another observation day. Desperate for her approval, Yan Wu quickly agreed. Soon afterward, her mother stepped away to answer a phone call and instructed Yan Wu to watch over Si Wu. The two sisters waited by the roadside. After a while, Si Wu became impatient and asked whether they should continue waiting. Yan Wu admitted that she did not know, but the call seemed nearly finished. Si Wu suggested leaving. Yan Wu refused. They should wait a little longer. Without warning, Si Wu suddenly dashed into the road. Yan Wu immediately shouted for her to come back. Panicking, she ran after her without looking. The next moment, both sisters were struck by a moving vehicle. Everything descended into chaos. People screamed for an ambulance while their mother rushed toward them in horror. When Yan Wu finally regained consciousness, she found herself lying in a hospital bed. Turning her head, she saw Si Wu nearby, covered in bandages. Relief washed over her. At least her sister was alive. At the same time, she quietly apologized for failing to protect her. Soon afterward, she overheard voices outside the room. It was her parents. Listening through the door, she heard them arguing about the hospital bills. Her mother desperately complained that they could not afford the expenses. If they failed to pay, they might lose everything and end up on the streets again. Her father attempted to calm her down, but she continued speaking until she finally broke down in tears. Those words shattered Yan Wu. Immediately, she blamed herself. If she had not asked her mother to attend the observation day, none of this would have happened. Her family would not be suffering financially. To Yan Wu, it all traced back to her own selfish wish. When the family was finally discharged from the hospital, reality dealt another blow. The medical costs were so severe that they were forced to sell their home and move into a much older house. From that point forward, her mother treated her differently. She became stricter and more critical. Every reprimand made Yan Wu feel as though she was being blamed for everything that had happened. Over time, even making eye contact with her mother became difficult. Years passed. Despite her hardships, Yan Wu eventually became a successful composer. Although the accident had permanently affected her little finger, people admired her perseverance. Her reputation continued to grow, and many praised her as a talented musician who had overcome adversity. One day, her music finally entered the charts. Excited, she rushed to share the news with her mother. Her mother congratulated her and admitted she was proud. Then, she immediately asked when Yan Wu would be sending the monthly living expenses. Yan Wu replied that payment would arrive within the week and that she would send the money as soon as she received it. Relieved, her mother thanked her and explained that money had been tight lately. Without hesitation, Yan Wu accepted the responsibility. Supporting her family had become second nature. It was a role she had long since accepted. The entire family was traveling together by car. For once, everyone was happy. Suddenly, the brakes failed. Her father desperately warned everyone to brace themselves. Moments later, the vehicle crashed. That accident became the reason they first fell into the underworld. It was also the moment Yan Wu met Hyojo. From their very first meeting, Hyojo seemed fascinated by her. He claimed she reminded him of his mother. Soon afterward, he fell in love with her at first sight. Not only did he shower her with affection, but he also treated her entire family with remarkable generosity. He welcomed them into his palace and provided them with a place to stay. For someone who had spent her life yearning for affection and approval, his attention was overwhelming. As he whispered words of love to her, feelings she had never experienced before slowly began to bloom. For the first time, it felt as though spring had arrived inside her heart. But that warmth did not last. One evening, Yan Wu stepped outside and discovered Hyojo standing among a group of people. To her horror, he was torturing them. Blood stained the scene. Shocked, she demanded to know what he was doing. Hyojo barely acknowledged the victims. Instead, he had heard one of those people had touched her. Then he calmly asked her to identify which one it was. Confused, Yan Wu tried to explain that nothing inappropriate had happened. One of them had merely caught her when she almost fell. To Hyojo, that distinction did not matter. He insisted that punishment was only natural. All she needed to do was point out the person responsible. He would kill them for her. He even casually admitted that he had done similar things before. Seeing her shocked expression, Hyojo gently took her hand. He promised to handle everything for her. And once again, he declared his love. In her vulnerable state, those words slowly distorted her perception of him. Back in the present, Hida listened carefully to every part of her story. When she finished, he struggled to believe what he had heard. He immediately offered to protect her from her former husband. His response made Yanwu pause. It dawned on her that Hida believed Hyojo was merely an ex-husband. He had no idea who Hyojo truly was. After some hesitation, Yanwu admitted that her experiences had left her afraid of men. Hida then asked a simple question. Was she afraid of him too? Yanwu quickly brushed the question aside. Hida, however, continued speaking. He reminded her that she had once boldly asked him to take her as his woman. Because of that, he felt responsible for helping her feel comfortable around him. With a teasing smile, he even joked that if she had not fainted the previous night, he would have demonstrated exactly what kind of man he was. Embarrassed, Yanwu apologized. Hida immediately waved it off and changed the subject. Instead, he revealed that they had plans for the day. A banquet was being held at one of his businesses, and he intended to attend. Yanwu questioned why she needed to accompany him. Hida explained that if they were pretending to be lovers, then they needed to act like lovers. He even asked whether she would be comfortable making their relationship public. Then he informed her that she would need to accompany him on future engagements as well. He reassured her that Sarum and a young man named Soho would always be available whenever she needed assistance. Introducing Soho, Hida explained that although the young man was still inexperienced, he was exceptionally talented and would protect her whenever Hida was unavailable. Yanwu accepted the arrangement. However, she became startled when Hida casually mentioned that they would be sharing a room. To him, it was perfectly natural. Although she reluctantly agreed, discomfort lingered in her heart. Then Hida added another surprise. After the banquet, he planned to visit Lord Zhang Kong and formally introduce Yan Wu as his lover. The situation was progressing much faster than she had expected. As thoughts of Hyojo surfaced once again, her body began trembling. She tried to reassure herself. She would be attending as Hida's lover. Surely Hyojo would not dare treat her carelessly under those circumstances. Yet her fear refused to disappear. Hida immediately noticed. Concerned, he pointed out that she had looked troubled for quite some time. Then, with surprising gentleness, he wiped her face with a towel. Yan Wu quickly insisted that she was fine and had merely gotten lost in thought. Trying to change the subject, she asked whether they had arrived. Instead of answering immediately, Hida reassured her. From now on, she was his lover. Nothing would happen to her. He promised. Feeling slightly comforted, Yan Wu accepted his hand. Together they entered the banquet. The servants immediately bowed in greeting. Yan Wu remembered Hida describing this place as a small business. The luxurious surroundings suggested otherwise. Soon, an elegant woman approached and warmly greeted Hida. She introduced herself as Dei, the establishment's most celebrated performer. After exchanging pleasantries, Dei noticed Yan Wu standing beside him and asked who she was. Without hesitation, Hida answered. Yan Wu was his lover. Although surprised, Dei quickly recovered and welcomed her as an honored guest. Then she took the stage and began performing. The audience became captivated by her music. When the performance ended, Hida applauded enthusiastically and praised her talent. Delighted by his praise, Dei explained that she had practiced tirelessly to present him with an even better performance. Impressed, Hida decided to reward her. He told her to ask for anything she desired. Nobody expected her response. Smiling, Dei turned toward Yan Wu. Then she made a single request. She wanted Yan Wu to perform a song. Immediately, every eye in the room shifted toward her. Caught completely off guard, Yan Wu stared in confusion and asked whether Dei was truly speaking to her. Dei smiled and confirmed that she was. Just like that, the atmosphere changed. What had begun as a pleasant banquet suddenly became very uncomfortable, as all attention focused squarely on Yan Wu. Yan Wu continued recounting her past, revealing the painful memories that had shaped her long before she ever entered the underworld. When she was younger, her mother often held her to impossibly high standards. One day, after returning home, her mother immediately questioned the messy state of the house. Although Yan Wu tried to shift the blame onto her younger sister, Si Wu, her mother quickly stopped her. She reminded Yan Wu that as the older sibling, it was her responsibility to guide and care for her younger sister. If the older child behaved properly, the younger one would naturally follow her example. Unable to argue, Yan Wu apologized. Her mother then informed her that she was going upstairs to wash up and instructed her to clean the house before she returned. As Yan Wu picked up toys scattered across the floor, her thoughts drifted toward the upcoming parents' observation day at school. In the end, she decided not to mention it. Even if she told her mother, she would probably be too busy to attend. Yan Wu did not want to become a burden. The next morning, she prepared to leave for school and politely announced that she was heading out. To her surprise, her mother called her back. She asked whether Yan Wu had something important to tell her. Confused, Yan Wu asked what she meant. Her mother reminded her that it was parents' observation day. Why had she not mentioned it? Yan Wu awkwardly admitted that she had not meant to hide it. She simply assumed her mother would be busy and did not want to bother her. Her mother stared at her for a moment before instructing her to look her directly in the eyes and answer honestly. Did she want her mother to attend? Yan Wu hesitated. Then, in a quiet voice, she admitted that she did. It had been so long since she had seen her mother smile. Her mother calmly sipped her tea before replying that, of course, she would attend. It was her daughter's class, after all. She promised that she would see her later at school. For the first time in a while, Yan Wu felt hopeful. She promised herself that she would work harder than ever before. If her teacher praised her enough, perhaps her mother would be proud. Maybe she would come again next time. Perhaps she could finally become a daughter worthy of love. Unfortunately, reality did not match her expectations. At the end of the school day, her mother expressed disappointment. She admitted that she had expected Yan Wu to be the smartest girl in the class. After comparing her to the other children, she felt embarrassed. She explained that she had wanted to see how well Yan Wu was doing, but if things remained the same, she would not come again. All she wanted was for her mother to keep showing up. But her mother continued, explaining that she had wanted to proudly tell everyone how smart and beautiful her daughter was. Since she could not do that, Yan Wu needed to improve. Desperate for her approval, Yan Wu immediately agreed. Soon afterward, her mother stepped away to answer a phone call and instructed Yan Wu to watch over Si Wu. The two sisters waited patiently by the roadside. After some time, Si Wu became restless and asked whether they should leave. Yan Wu admitted she was unsure, but the phone call seemed almost finished. Si Wu suggested leaving anyway. Yan Wu told her to wait just a little longer. Without warning, Si Wu suddenly ran into the road. Panicking, Yan Wu shouted for her to come back and immediately chased after her without checking for traffic. The next moment, both sisters were struck by a moving vehicle. People nearby screamed for an ambulance. Their mother rushed toward them in horror. When Yan Wu finally regained consciousness, she found herself lying in a hospital bed. Turning her head, she saw Si Wu nearby, wrapped in bandages. Relief flooded her heart. At least her sister was alive. At the same time, guilt overwhelmed her. Soon afterward, she overheard voices outside the room. It was her parents. Listening through the door, she heard them arguing about the hospital bills. Her mother desperately complained that they could not afford the expenses. If they failed to pay, they could lose everything and end up back on the streets. Her father tried to calm her down, but she continued until she finally broke down crying. Those words crushed Yan Wu. Immediately, she blamed herself. If she had not asked her mother to attend the observation day, none of this would have happened. Her sister would not have been injured. Her family would not be suffering. To Yan Wu, every tragedy seemed to begin with her. Eventually, both sisters recovered enough to leave the hospital. However, the treatment costs were devastating. The family was forced to sell their home and move into an older, less comfortable one. After the accident, her mother's attitude toward her noticeably changed. She became harsher, more critical. Every reprimand felt as though her mother blamed her for the family's misfortune. Over time, even meeting her mother's eyes became difficult. Years passed. Despite everything, Yan Wu eventually became a successful composer. Although the accident had permanently affected her little finger, people admired her determination. Her reputation grew steadily, and many praised her as a talented musician who had overcome tremendous hardship. One day, one of her songs finally entered the charts. Excited beyond words, she rushed to share the news with her mother. Her mother congratulated her and admitted she was proud. Then she immediately asked when Yan Wu would be sending the monthly living expenses. Yan Wu calmly replied that she expected payment within the week and would transfer the money as soon as she received it. Relieved, her mother thanked her and explained how difficult the month had been financially. Without hesitation, Yan Wu accepted the responsibility. Supporting her family had become a duty she never questioned. Then came the day that changed her life forever. The entire family was traveling together by car. For once, everyone seemed happy. Suddenly, the brakes failed. Her father shouted for everyone to be careful. Moments later, the car crashed. That accident became the reason they first arrived in the underworld. It was also where Yanwu met Hyojo. From the very beginning, Hyojo appeared captivated by her. He claimed that she reminded him of his mother. Then, he fell in love with her at first sight. Not only did he treat Yanwu kindly, but he also extended extraordinary hospitality to her entire family. He welcomed them into his palace and provided them with a place to stay. For someone who had spent her entire life craving affection and approval, his attention felt overwhelming. As he whispered words of love to her, feelings she had never experienced before slowly began to bloom. For the first time, it felt as though spring had arrived in her heart. But the illusion did not last. One night, Yanwu stepped outside and discovered Hyojo standing among several people. To her horror, he was torturing them. Blood stained the scene. Shocked, she demanded to know what he was doing. Hyojo barely acknowledged the victims. Instead, he had heard one of those people had touched her. Then he calmly asked her to identify which one it was. Confused, Yanwu explained that nothing inappropriate had happened. One of them had simply caught her when she almost fell. To Hyojo, that distinction did not matter. He insisted that punishment was natural. All she had to do was point out the person responsible. He even casually admitted that he had already done similar things to other innocent people. Seeing her horrified expression, Hyojo gently took her hand. He promised to handle everything for her. Then once again he declared his love. At the time, Yanwu was emotionally vulnerable. Slowly, his words began to influence the way she saw him. Back in the present, Haida listened carefully to her entire story. When she finished, he looked genuinely disturbed. He immediately asked whether something like that had really happened and offered to protect her from her former husband. His response caught Yanwu off guard. For a moment she realized that Haida seemed to think Hyojo was merely an ex-husband rather than the terrifying figure she knew him to be. After a brief silence, she admitted that her experiences had left her afraid of men. Haida then asked if she was afraid of him too. Yanwu quickly dismissed the question. However, Haida continued speaking. He reminded her that she had once boldly asked him to take her as his woman. Because of that, he felt responsible for helping her feel comfortable around him. With a teasing smile, he even joked that if she had not fainted the previous night, he would have shown her exactly what kind of man he was. Embarrassed, Yanwu apologized. Haida immediately waved the apology away and changed the subject. Instead, he revealed that they had plans for the day. A banquet was being held at one of his businesses, and he intended to attend. Yanwu questioned why she needed to accompany him. Haida explained that if they were pretending to be lovers, then they needed to act like lovers. He even asked whether she would be comfortable making their relationship public. Then he informed her that she would need to accompany him during future engagements as well. He reassured her that Sarim and a young man named Soho would always be available whenever she needed assistance. Introducing Soho, Haida explained that although he was young, he was highly capable and would protect her whenever Haida was unavailable. Yanwu accepted the arrangement. However, she was startled when Haida casually mentioned that they would be sharing a room. To him, it was perfectly natural. They were lovers, after all. Although she reluctantly agreed, uneasiness lingered in her heart. Then Haida revealed another surprise. After the banquet, he intended to visit Lord Jang Khan and formally introduce Yanwu as his lover. The situation was progressing far more quickly than she expected. As thoughts of Hyojo resurfaced, her body began trembling. She tried to reassure herself. She would be attending as Haida's lover. Surely Hyojo would not dare treat her carelessly under those circumstances. Yet her fear refused to disappear. Haida immediately noticed. Concerned, he pointed out that she had seemed troubled for quite some time. Then, with surprising gentleness, he wiped her face with a towel. Yanwu quickly insisted that she was fine and had simply gotten lost in thought. Trying to redirect the conversation, she asked whether they had arrived. Instead of answering immediately, Haida offered reassurance. From now on, she was his lover. Nothing would happen to her. He promised. Hearing those words, Yanwu slowly relaxed. Trusting him, at least for the moment, she placed her hand in his. Together, they stepped forward and made their way toward the banquet hall. The attendants bowed respectfully to welcome Lord Haida. Yanwu immediately remembered how he had casually described this place as a small shop. Looking around, she realized that description had been a massive understatement. The building was luxurious, the atmosphere refined, and everything about it suggested wealth and influence far beyond what she had expected. Before she could fully take in her surroundings, an elegant woman approached them with a warm smile. Introducing herself as Dei, she greeted Haida respectfully. After exchanging pleasantries, Dei modestly introduced herself as the establishment's best performer, though she jokingly claimed that people often praised her too much. Her attention then shifted to the woman standing beside him. Curious, she asked who Yanwu was. Without hesitation, Haida answered, Yan Wu was his lover. The declaration visibly surprised Day. However, she recovered quickly and politely welcomed Yan Wu as a precious guest. She promised to serve them with even greater sincerity than usual before excusing herself to begin her performance. A short while later, Day took her place before the Gaiagium and began to play. The beautiful melody immediately captivated the audience. When the performance ended, applause echoed throughout the hall. Hida joined in, praising her skill and telling her that her reputation as the best performer was well-deserved. Delighted by the compliment, Day explained that she had practiced tirelessly in hopes of presenting him with an even better song than before. Impressed, Haida decided to reward her. He announced that he would grant her one wish and invited her to ask for anything she desired. The offer clearly caught her off guard. After a brief pause, she made a request that surprised everyone. She asked for Yan Wu to perform a song. Yan Wu blinked in confusion. Surely she had misheard. Looking around, she pointed at herself and asked whether Day was truly speaking to her. Day smiled and confirmed that she was. Suddenly, every eye in the room shifted toward Yan Wu. The atmosphere became uncomfortable almost instantly. Sensing her hesitation, Day explained her reasoning. She had noticed the calluses on Yan Wu's fingers earlier. Those marks were familiar to her. In her experience, performers could always recognize other performers. The condition of Yan Wu's hands suggested years of practice with musical instruments. Therefore, Day believed that if her assumption was correct, then Yan Wu's performance would surely be just as beautiful as her appearance. He asked whether she could play. Yan Wu quietly nodded. Smiling, Hida encouraged her to perform if she wished, though he made it clear that she should not feel pressured. If she did not want to play, nobody would force her. After a moment of consideration, Yan Wu accepted. Although the request had come unexpectedly, she agreed to perform. Then she asked a question that caught Hida off guard. Confused, he asked what she meant. Yan Wu explained that since Day's performance had earned her a wish, her own performance should qualify as well. Hida laughed softly. He told her that she still did not know him very well. Even if she never touched an instrument, he would gladly grant every wish she asked of him. His answer brought a genuine smile to her face. Quietly, she thanked him. Little by little, she was beginning to feel comfortable around him. Walking toward the instrument, Yan Wu settled herself before the Gaiagium. Then she introduced the piece she was about to perform. The song was untitled. She explained that she had composed it during one of the darkest periods of her life, back when she had been trapped in a small room without windows, imprisoned by Hyojo's obsession. As the empty days repeated endlessly, she found comfort in music. The Gaiagum became her companion. Into this song she poured every emotion she could no longer express aloud, her regret for ever loving him, her sorrow, her resentment, and above all, her hatred. Then she began to play. The first notes silenced the entire room. Everyone present became completely absorbed. In the melody, the music carried a depth of pain that words could never fully capture. Even Day stood frozen in a corner, watching with widened eyes. She immediately realized that she was witnessing something extraordinary. Meanwhile, Hida listened in complete silence. For the first time since meeting Yan Wu, he felt as though he was hearing the true voice hidden inside her heart. The performance affected everyone. When the final note faded away, the hall remained silent for a moment. Then thunderous applause erupted. Hida looked at her with genuine admiration. He declared it the most beautiful performance he had ever heard. Since she had fulfilled her part of the bargain, he promised to honor his word and asked what wish she wanted granted. Before she could answer, however, another person reached her limit. Watching the entire scene unfold had become unbearable for Day. Unable to hide her emotions any longer, she quietly left the hall. As she walked away, tears welled in her eyes. She remembered Hida's praise, the most beautiful performance he had ever heard. The words echoed painfully in her mind. For a long time she had believed that the seat beside him belonged to her. Now someone else occupied that place. And for the first time, jealousy began taking root in her heart. A jealousy dangerous enough to cause problems in the future. After the banquet finally ended, Hida and Yan Wu walked together through the quiet halls. Still impressed, Hida admitted that he was genuinely shocked by her talent. He had never expected her to play the Gaiagium so beautifully. Yan Wu thanked him. Curious, Haida asked whether she had often played instruments back on Earth. She shook her head. Music had been her profession. Because of that, she had learned a variety of instruments, though she considered herself proficient rather than exceptional with most of them. She also revealed that she had composed numerous songs throughout her life, though it had been a very long time since she personally performed any of them. As they continued walking, Hida brought up something he had noticed during her performance. Her little finger had trembled slightly while she played. It looked as though it had once been injured. Concerned, he asked whether it still hurt. Yan Wu glanced at her hand. She admitted that she had injured it many years ago. Although the injury prevented her from performing perfectly, the pain itself had long since disappeared. Hida frowned slightly. He called it a shame. His response surprised her. Most people simply praised her skill. Very few acknowledged what she had lost. Haida explained that her music was already beautiful. If not for the injury, however, it might have been even more extraordinary. For a moment, Yan Wu was speechless. Then she quietly thanked him. His words touched her more deeply than ordinary compliments ever could. Rather than ignoring her weakness, he had recognized both her talent and the sacrifice that accompanied it. The conversation gradually shifted. Haida reminded her about the wish she wanted to request. Immediately, Yan Wu fell into thought. There was something she wanted to ask. More than anything, she wanted separate rooms. The idea of sharing a room still made her nervous. However, she hesitated. Their relationship was supposed to convince others that they were lovers. Perhaps sharing a room was necessary. Furthermore, the events of their first night together had already ended badly because of her reaction. Unsure of what to say, Yan Wu remained silent. For the first time in a while, she found herself struggling to decide what she truly wanted. Yan Wu suddenly looked up and realized they had walked much farther than she expected. Instead of revealing her wish, she simply asked where they were. Wei calmly explained that the place was sponsored by his clan and happened to be his favorite spot. Without hesitation, he removed his shoes and stepped into the ash. He explained that the wall surrounding the area was low, allowing volcanic ash to gather there. According to him, walking through it barefoot felt like stepping on clouds. At first, Yan Wu refused and insisted she was fine. However, Wei pointed out that she had been tense ever since arriving in the underworld. Eventually, she gave in, removed her shoes, and said she would only try it for a moment. The instant her feet touched the ash, she was surprised by how soft it felt. At the same time, she realized it had been a long while since she had experienced something so simple and comforting. The peaceful atmosphere did not last long. Suddenly, Wei kicked a cloud of ash toward her. She protested immediately, but he only laughed and encouraged her to enjoy herself. Eventually, she retaliated by throwing ash back at him. Afterward, she quickly apologized and reminded him that she had warned him. Wei casually brushed it off, saying it was fine and assuming she simply could not hold back. As Yan Wu watched him laugh, she found herself thinking he looked unexpectedly handsome. Before long, she was laughing too. After their playful exchange, the two sat together on top of the fence. Wei asked whether she liked the place, before casually revealing that it was actually the room she would be staying in. Surprised, Yan Wu asked whether she was not supposed to share a room with him. He explained that his own room was right next door, and that a small side entrance connected the two rooms, meaning they would still be close by. He then joked about his appearance, saying that since she was afraid of men, there was no way she would feel comfortable sharing a room with him anyway. This arrangement, he said, would be much better and would not burden her. He reminded her that the house was large and filled with empty rooms, before encouraging her to get plenty of rest. Grateful for his consideration, Yan Wu thanked him. Later that night, Lord Hua walked down a hallway only to find Soho kneeling before him. When he asked what was happening, Soho revealed that he had finally found the person they had been searching for. The scene then shifted as Hojo and Yan Wu rode together in a chariot. Eventually, the carriage came to a stop. Looking ahead, Yan Wu immediately recognized Zhang Gong's castle. The realization struck her hard. This was the very day she might see Hojo again. The mere thought of him made her feel dizzy. Hojo noticed her discomfort at once and asked whether she was all right. She quickly apologized and claimed she had simply felt nauseous for a moment. However, he reminded her of the promise he had made. He would never allow anything to torment her again. As he spoke, he moved slightly closer. Yet Yan Wu immediately turned her face away and insisted she was fine. She had already sworn to herself that she would never again allow Hojo to fill her with fear, even if the situation remained terrifying. Without another word, she headed toward the entrance, leaving him slightly confused. She then asked whether they should go inside. He agreed. The moment they entered the palace, Yan Wu froze. Everything remained exactly as she remembered it. The structure, the decorations, and even the placement of individual objects were unchanged. The familiarity dragged her into a trance. Suddenly, she imagined Hojo standing directly behind her. In her mind, she could hear him whispering that she had finally arrived while his hand rested around her neck. The vision made her tremble. Seeking comfort, she instinctively grabbed the edge of Heda's clothing. Although he noticed her action, he continued forward and loudly announced their arrival to Lord Jiangong. A voice from inside invited them to enter. That only made Yan Wu tremble more. She was convinced that the moment the door opened, she would come face to face with her former husband. But when the door finally opened, it was not Hojo standing there. Instead, it was Lord Jiangong himself, ruler of the underworld. His attention immediately shifted toward Yan Wu. He asked whether she was Heida's lover and then requested her name. She introduced herself as Yan Wu. Jiangong remarked that Hojo's habit of hiding her away made it seem as though he intended to harm her by summoning her there. Confused, Yan Wu wondered why Hojo was absent. In her previous life, he had always remained by Jiangong's side. Hua quickly denied any such intentions. Jiangong then questioned why it had taken him so long to visit. Meanwhile, Yanwu quietly began to hope that perhaps she would never meet Hojo at all in this lifetime. After a brief exchange, Jiang Gong stated that he had wanted to meet Hua in person and that now he should return home and rest. However, before they left, he requested a moment alone with Haida. Yanwu agreed and stepped outside. Once she was gone, Jiang Gong commented that she was a beautiful young woman and advised Haida to help her adjust to life in the underworld. Then his expression changed. Addressing him as Black Wolf, Jiang Gong made it clear that he knew exactly why he had summoned him. Outside, Yanwu reflected on everything that had happened. For a moment she had truly believed she would meet Hojo again, but nothing had occurred. Relief slowly washed over her. Perhaps this was finally the end. If Jiang Gong never summoned her again, she would never need to return. Leaning against a nearby tree, she allowed herself to relax. Then she heard footsteps. Her heart immediately froze. Turning around, she saw a familiar figure. It was Hojo. Fear gripped her once more as she wondered why he was there. In a low voice, Hojo questioned what was so special about someone who looked no different from anyone else. He even remarked that Ha seemed completely wrapped around her finger. As he stepped closer, the tension rose sharply. The piece she had just found vanished instantly. A moment later, Yanwu hid herself and covered her mouth as he walked past. For a brief second, she sighed with relief, believing he was gone. Then a voice suddenly spoke from behind her. "Who are you?" Her entire body trembled. Slowly turning around, she found him standing there once again. He looked exactly like the Hojo from her memories. As he questioned her repeatedly about her identity and why she was hiding, she found herself unable to answer. Only one thought echoed through her mind. It was him. Noticing her reaction, Hojo remarked that she seemed terribly startled. He then reached out his hand and offered to help her up. Immediately, Yanwu's thoughts spiraled. What was he planning? At the same time, she remembered something important. In the past, reacting too strongly only encouraged him to pursue her further. Determined not to repeat her mistakes, she remained silent. Though it was difficult, she carefully placed her hand in his. Hojo pulled her closer, nearly into his arms, as he lifted her from the ground. The sudden proximity made her panic. She immediately yanked her hand away and shouted for him to let go. Rather than becoming angry, Hojo simply apologized. He remarked that she had reminded him of a frightened little mouse, and that he had felt like playing with her. Looking down at the bruises forming on her hand, Yanwu felt disgusted. He had always been like this. He never cared about her feelings and always did whatever he pleased. Gathering her courage, she told him that playing such games with someone he had only just met was unpleasant. Rather than backing down, Hojo called her cheeky and questioned whether she knew who she was speaking to. The moment he spoke her name, she quickly declared that she was Lord Hua's lover and warned him not to treat her carelessly. Basic manners alone, she argued, should make that obvious. Hojo merely laughed. Calling her Hua's woman, he remarked that she was surprisingly fierce. He even joked that Hua must have enjoyed himself with her and admitted that he had once believed the rumor that Hua was a eunuch. Now, however, he found it disappointing that the rumor appeared false. His comments only made the situation more uncomfortable. Afterward, he asked for her name. When she answered, Yanwu, he smiled and remarked that it was a beautiful name. The uneasy atmosphere deepened. Fortunately, Sarum soon arrived looking for her. The moment Sarum noticed Hojo, she visibly stiffened. Yanwu requested a moment alone and claimed she needed to rest. Despite Sarum repeatedly calling after her, she explained that her legs felt weak and left. Not long afterwards, Sarum caught up with her and asked what had happened. Yanwu apologized and requested permission to return home. Sarum agreed. Later, when Ha returned, Sarum informed him of everything. His first question was where Yanwu was. When Sarum explained that she was resting, he praised her for handling the situation well before asking what exactly had happened. Unfortunately, Sarum admitted she did not know, because Yanwu had been alone. Still, she revealed one important detail. Yanwu had seemed absolutely terrified of something. Hearing that, Ha became concerned. Nothing unusual had happened during the meeting with Lord Jiang Gong. Then Sarum added one final detail. Before Yanwu left the garden, Lord Hojo had emerged from the same area. Several hours earlier, Lord Jiang Gong had called Hua the Black Wolf closer. He expressed his gratitude to Hua and his brother, explaining that their presence helped maintain peace throughout the underworld. Suddenly, he began coughing violently. Although Hua immediately stepped forward to help, Jiang Gong waved him off and insisted he was fine. He explained that age was finally catching up with him and that his body no longer obeyed him as it once had. He then admitted that he could feel the time approaching when he would have to pass on his position. Hua immediately objected, insisting that he remain strong. However, Jiang Gong changed the subject and brought up Hojo. He admitted that he still did not fully trust him. In fact, despite being Hojo's father, he felt exactly the same way. Hua agreed and pointed out that their false family bond would eventually collapse. The day Hojo learned they were not related by blood would be the day everything changed. That truth would inevitably surface once Hojo inherited the throne. Jiang Gong acknowledged the mistake and admitted he had been careless. Then he asked about Yan Wu. Was she the woman Hua had been searching for? Hua hesitated. He admitted that he was not certain. Even so, something deep within him continued to hope. Jiang Gong smiled and said he hoped she was the one. In silence, Hua and Yan Wu sat together drinking tea. She apologized for leaving so suddenly the previous night, and explained that she had intended to wait but ended up leaving without saying goodbye. Hua dismissed the matter, saying it was not important. However, when he noticed she still looked pale, he asked whether she was feeling any better. Yan Wu struggled to answer. Memories of Hojo and her previous life flooded her mind. She had promised herself that this life would be different, yet seeing him again had awakened the same fear she thought she had left behind. In the end, she simply claimed she was tired. Hua encouraged her to rest and showed genuine concern. His kindness surprised her. Soon, Saram announced that her bath was ready and said she would wait outside. As Yeonwoo gathered her belongings, she reflected on Hwa's behavior. He did not seem suspicious or manipulative. He simply appeared sincerely worried about her well-being. Quietly, she found herself admiring his kindness. Just as she prepared to enter the bath, a voice from inside suddenly spoke. "There is no need for extra help." Startled, Yeonwoo looked up and froze. Ha was already inside the bath. She immediately apologized and turned to leave. But before she could take another step, he stopped her. In that moment, Yeonwoo noticed just how gentle Hwa truly was. The closeness between them left her uncertain, caught somewhere between embarrassment and trust. Holding her hand, Hwa asked how many people were waiting outside. He explained that Saram was not the type of person to make such a mistake. If Yeonwoo had been sent there, then it was likely done intentionally. At first, Yeonwoo did not understand. However, after thinking about it, she admitted that it was probably not an accident. Hwa then pointed out that if she suddenly left now, it might attract suspicion. Since the situation had already reached this point, he suggested that she stay and warm herself before leaving. However, he made it clear that the decision was entirely hers. Although surprised by the suggestion, Yeonwoo eventually agreed. She carefully stepped into the bath and settled into a corner, keeping as much distance as possible between them. Inwardly, she reminded herself not to behave suspiciously. Even if their relationship existed only as part of a contract, they still needed to appear convincing to others. Their eyes met briefly. The moment it happened, she quickly looked away. Hwa immediately noticed. With a faint smile, he remarked that she seemed to stare at him quite openly. Caught off guard, Yeonwoo hurriedly apologized. To her surprise, Hwa shook his head. There was no need to apologize, he said. If anyone was at fault, it was probably him. He then casually added that it would be difficult for anyone to look away from someone as beautiful as he was. The teasing comment caught her completely off guard. Moments later, however, his expression became more serious. When it came to him, he explained he never wanted her to feel sorry for anything. Yeonwoo admitted that she felt strange. There were many things about her that could easily raise suspicion. Hwa acknowledged that fact, but he had no intention of pressuring her. Instead, he would wait until she felt ready to tell him the truth herself. He would wait until she no longer carried such sadness in her heart. His words struck her deeply. The kinder he treated her, the more she wanted to open up about her past. At the same time, she found herself growing increasingly curious about him. Eventually, she lowered her gaze and quietly thanked him. Elsewhere, Hojo sat alone, drinking tea. Despite himself, his thoughts continued drifting back to Yeonwoo, the woman he had encountered earlier. Meanwhile, Yeonwoo was being dressed by Sharon, who carefully adjusted her clothing and tightened the corset behind her. As Sharon worked, she suddenly noticed a mark on Yeonwoo's shoulder blade. Curious, she pointed it out and asked whether it had always been there. The question immediately caught Yeonwoo off guard. Her mind flashed back to the moment Hojo had grabbed her. Realizing it was likely a bruise left behind by him, she quickly denied it. She insisted that there was nothing unusual there and claimed she must have accidentally bumped into something. Trying to change the subject, she called for Saram and admitted she was curious about something. Saram calmly encouraged her to speak freely. Yeonwoo explained that she was only going to teach Hwa how to play an instrument, and wondered whether she really needed to dress up so much for the occasion. Saram immediately assured her that she did. According to her, when a man and woman were involved, especially lovers, nobody could predict how things might develop. She even claimed that Yeonwoo would thank her later. Though still hesitant, Yeonwoo eventually accepted the explanation. Earlier, while they had been sitting together, Hwa had suddenly asked her for a favor. He admitted it might sound unexpected. When she asked what he meant, he brought up the song Untitled. Ever since hearing it, he confessed that he had been unable to stop thinking about it. Because of that, he wanted her to teach him how to play it. The request had left Yeonwoo momentarily speechless. Later, she arrived to meet him. The moment Hwa saw her, he quietly admitted to himself that she looked beautiful. Then again, he had expected nothing less. Meanwhile, Yeonwoo felt increasingly self-conscious and avoided meeting his eyes. Soon, the two sat together before a geogum. Yan Wu explained that there was no written sheet music and asked whether he could learn simply by listening and repeating each section. Hua agreed without hesitation. As she began to play, he watched her carefully and followed each note. The first sound drew a small smile from her lips. As the lesson continued, she complimented his ability. Men naturally possessed greater strength, which often changed the sound produced by the instrument, yet his playing remained controlled and refined. Hua thanked her for the praise. She then commented that he must be both delicate and skilled at controlling his own strength. The moment the words left her mouth, she suddenly became aware of what she was implying and quickly changed the subject. Instead, she asked whether he enjoyed exercising. Hua looked confused at first. She hurriedly explained that she was referring to the instrument. Once he understood, he chuckled and admitted that for a moment he thought she had become interested in him again. Yan Wu could only laugh awkwardly. Hua explained that he did not follow any special exercise routine. However, he practiced horseback riding and archery whenever necessary. Then he asked a question of his own. What did she like? The question caught her completely off guard. After thinking for a moment, she answered honestly, she liked the sky. More specifically, she loved the clear blue sky. Hearing that, Hua admitted that he had wanted to buy her a gift, but now it seemed like a difficult task. He then asked her to tell him more about the upper grounds. In response, Yanwu asked whether he had ever heard of snow. Seeing his confusion, she explained that it was something that fell from the sky, much like ash, except it was white, clean, and beautiful. She described how it blanketed everything in sight and transformed the world into a breathtaking landscape. As he listened, Hua remembered that she had mentioned it before. He then revealed that when he was very young, he had once visited the upper grounds and witnessed snow for himself. Before he could continue, Yan Wu suddenly lunged forward. The unexpected movement caught him completely off guard. Grabbing onto him, she urgently asked whether he knew how to reach the upper grounds. The desperation in her voice revealed a dramatic shift in her thoughts. Deep inside, Yan Wu could think of only one thing. If she could somehow find a way back to the upper grounds, perhaps she could finally sever the suffocating connection tying her to Hojo. Perhaps she could return to a peaceful life, a warm life, a life where she could live happily alongside her family without fear constantly lurking in the shadows. Hua gently steadied her, lifting her slightly and encouraging her to calm down. His voice remained steady and reassuring. Although he had once been to the upper grounds, he explained, it happened when he was extremely young. His memories were fragmented and incomplete. Furthermore, the circumstances had been unusual. His guardian spirit had gone into a violent rampage after he was forcibly taken there, turning the entire experience into chaos. As a result, very little remained clear in his memory. Hearing this, Yan Wu fell silent. The fragile hope she had been clinging to immediately began to fade. Hua noticed the change in her expression. Softly, he apologized. He knew it was not the answer she had wanted to hear. He regretted being unable to offer her something more useful. Yan Wu quickly shook her head. There was no need for him to apologize. If anything, she felt she should be the one apologizing. Although her voice remained calm, a trace of disappointment lingered beneath the surface. After studying her quietly for a moment, Hua asked whether she truly missed the upper grounds that much. Then he carefully reminded her of something else. The upper grounds were also where her former husband lived. The reminder hung heavily between them. Yan Wu deliberately ignored that part of his statement. Instead, she admitted that she missed the upper grounds deeply. That was where she belonged. It was the place that felt like home. More than anything, she wanted to see the clear blue sky again. The endless sky that stretched beyond the horizon. Hua listened without interrupting. After a short silence, he sighed softly. It seemed he had unknowingly asked something far more complicated than he intended. For that, he apologized again. Yan Wu reassured him once more and admitted that she had overreacted earlier. He had only been showing concern for her. Hua accepted her explanation with a small nod. Then his expression grew serious. There was something important he needed to tell her. From now on, she was never to leave the house at night without him. Although Yan Wu nodded obediently, her thoughts told a different story. Privately, she had no intention of fully obeying that rule. Hua then explained his reasoning. Night in the underworld was very different from night in the upper world. Souls of the dead arrived there after dark. Many of those wandering spirits were confused, unstable, and sometimes dangerous. Because of this, there were individuals tasked with guiding them safely. Those individuals were known as reapers. Yan Wu listened carefully and nodded. At the same time, she could not help finding the situation slightly ironic. After all, she already knew everything he was explaining. Revealing that fact, however, would raise far too many questions. Sensing the mood had become too heavy, Hua changed the subject. He informed her that she would be able to visit her family that very day. The lodging issue had already been resolved. For a moment, Yan Wu simply stared at him. Then genuine happiness spread across her face. Unlike before, this reaction was completely sincere. She thanked him wholeheartedly. Seeing her smile, Hua smiled faintly in return. He admitted that he preferred hearing that. Yan Wu looked surprised. Hua then explained that he liked hearing her express gratitude. From now on, he wanted her to say thank you more often instead of apologizing for everything. Quietly, she nodded and accepted his words. Later, Yan Wu stood with Saram outside her family's residence. Looking at her companion, she asked whether it would truly be all right for her to go inside alone. She also wondered whether Saram would have to wait outside for a very long time. Saram calmly reassured Yan Wu that there was nothing to worry about. She reminded her that this would be the first time she had seen her family since that day, and encouraged her to take her time and enjoy every moment with them. Yan Wu thanked her sincerely. Saram then mentioned that she had a few matters to take care of in the meantime. With that, the two parted ways, and Yan Wu continued on her own. Not long afterward, there was a knock at the door. The moment it opened, Jay immediately recognized her. Her reaction was instant. With a bright smile, she called out Yan Wu's name and rushed forward, wrapping her in a tight embrace. She excitedly commented on how successful Yan Wu must be now, pointing out her elegant appearance and the expensive clothing she was wearing. Without missing a beat, Jay loudly called for their parents, announcing Yan Wu's arrival. Their father soon appeared. The moment their eyes met, a brief silence settled between them. "It's been a long time," Yan Wu said softly. Her father let out a breath of relief. He admitted that he had been worried about her all this time. Yan Wu apologized for causing him concern and reassured him that she had been doing well. Then her mother emerged. For a moment, she simply stared at Yan Wu, as if confirming that what she was seeing was real. Only then did she ask whether it was truly her. Yan Wu greeted her as well. It was the kind of silence filled with everything that had happened, everything that had gone unsaid, and everything that remained unresolved between them. Earlier that day, Saram had been standing beside Hua when he casually asked where Yan Wu was. Although his tone remained calm, there was a subtle expectation hidden beneath it. Saram respectfully informed him that Yan Wu was preparing to go out. Hua paused briefly, seemingly considering something, then he quietly instructed Saram to take care of a particular matter once they left. His words were indirect and measured, but Saram understood immediately. Lowering her head slightly, she accepted the task without question. Back in the present, Yan Wu sat at a table with her family. The atmosphere felt strangely familiar and distant at the same time. Her father looked at her with obvious concern. It was clear he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He gently asked how she had been. Once again, Yan Wu apologized for worrying them and assured him that nothing serious had happened. She explained that the man she had met in the forest had helped her greatly and appeared to be a good person. As she spoke, she carefully chose her words, revealing only what she felt safe sharing. Her mother reached across the table and took her hand. The grip was firm but not harsh. She warned Yan Wu not to trust people too easily. The familiar sharpness in her voice remained, though it was softer than before. Then, to Yan Wu's surprise, her mother apologized for the way she had spoken to her in the past. She advised her to think carefully about the future because none of them truly understood where they were or how long they would remain there. Yan Wu nodded and apologized once more. Her mother let out a soft sigh before thanking her. From now on, she said, their family should share everything with one another. There should be no more secrets. Yan Wu quietly agreed. Yet despite her words, something in her expression remained restrained. The mood shifted when her mother's attention fell upon her clothing. A frown appeared on her face. She questioned how Yan Wu had come to possess such fine garments. Soon, her words drifted toward complaint. She spoke about their difficult living conditions, the lack of proper food, and the hardships they faced every day. Beside her, Siwu quietly raised her hands. Blisters covered her skin. In a small but honest voice, she explained that she had been working in the fields. The sight alone spoke volumes. In that moment, the harsh reality of the underworld became impossible to ignore. The air remained heavy with smoke. The sky above was never clear or blue. Instead, a dull gray haze hung endlessly overhead, creating a suffocating atmosphere that weighed on everything around them. Despite all of this, Siwu looked toward Yan Wu with hopeful eyes. She quietly asked whether they could come and live with her instead. The question caught Yan Wu off guard. Her thoughts immediately became tangled. Carefully choosing her words, she admitted that she could not make such a decision on her own. Before she could continue, her mother interrupted. She told Siwu not to place additional burdens on Yan Wu. After all, Yan Wu herself was still relying on someone else's generosity. The firm response immediately drew a line between hope and reality. Yet almost as quickly, her mother's expression softened. Her voice became gentler and more persuasive. She asked whether Yan Wu could bring supplies during her next visit. Food and necessities were running low, and life had become increasingly difficult. She even suggested speaking with the man who had helped her, implying that someone so kind might be willing to offer assistance. Faced with the request, Yan Wu found herself speechless. Then her mother pulled her into a tight embrace. Quietly, she apologized for having to depend on her this way. The weight of those words lingered heavily in the room. Everyone else remained silent. It felt as though they all understood exactly what was happening but chose not to acknowledge it aloud. In the end, Yanwu gently reassured her. She promised that she would speak to him. Even as she said the words, she felt the burden settling more heavily onto her shoulders. Eventually, it was time to leave. Her mother noticed immediately and asked why she was departing so soon. Yanwu simply explained that someone was waiting for her. Accepting the explanation, her mother nodded. However, just as Yanwu began to walk away, her mother called her back. She asked whether she was forgetting something. After a brief pause, Yanwu returned. Without hesitation, she stepped forward and embraced her mother. The hug felt strangely hollow, more obligation than comfort. As they stood together, her mother softly reminded her that she was the only person the family could truly rely upon. Yanwu closed her eyes for a moment. Then she promised that she would do her best. As she walked away, those words echoed repeatedly in her mind. She had to protect her family, no matter what. At the same time, another thought burned just as strongly within her. She also had to protect herself from Hojo. Lost in those thoughts, she continued walking until a hand suddenly grabbed hers from behind. Her entire body tensed. She quickly turned around, her heart racing. Then she saw who it was. Sarim. Almost instantly, the tension left her body. Relief replaced it. Sarim studied her carefully. Her gaze was calm but observant. She asked whether something was wrong, noting that Yanwu looked deeply unsettled. Yanwu slowly exhaled. She admitted that she had been unable to find Sarim earlier and wondered whether her emotions had truly been that obvious. Sarim apologized softly, explaining that she may not have noticed sooner. After a brief pause, she asked a simple question. Had Yanwu eaten yet? The question caught her by surprise. Only then did Yanwu realize that she had not eaten at all. Sarim suggested visiting a restaurant she liked, a buchim restaurant. She spoke so casually that it sounded as though the decision had already been made. Although uncertain, Yanwu eventually nodded and agreed. The two headed off together. Along the way, Sarim suggested visiting the market afterward, believing it might help Yanwu relax. Hearing this, Yanwu quietly wondered when she had ever mentioned liking buchim in the first place. Still, she chose not to question it. When they arrived, Sarim offered a small warning. The restaurant could be somewhat chaotic, so Yanwu should not be surprised by the atmosphere. Just before they entered, another figure appeared. It was Dehi. Greeting them with a composed smile, she immediately shifted the mood. Her attention settled on Yanwu. Noting that she had come out alone today, Dehi asked a few questions. Sarim answered briefly. Dehi then turned her full attention toward Yanwu and praised her previous performance. She described it as unique and unlike anything else. However, there was a hidden meaning beneath her words. She remarked that Hua often enjoyed things that were new and unusual, though his interest rarely lasted long. Quietly, she expressed hope that Yanwu would be able to hold his attention for as long as possible. The implication was impossible to miss. Soon afterward, Dehi questioned their choice of restaurant, subtly suggesting that such a place was beneath women of their standing. Behind her, several women let out amused laughs. Yanwu noticed the reaction immediately. Dehi offered to escort them somewhere more elegant and refined instead. Politely, Yanwu declined. She explained that she wanted to try the place Sarim had recommended. When Dehi shifted her attention towards Sarim and made a dismissive remark, Yanwu intervened. Without raising her voice, she made one thing perfectly clear. Sarim was important to her. Those simple words changed the atmosphere instantly. Later, after they had finished eating, Yanwu sincerely expressed how much she enjoyed the meal. Sarim remained silent for a moment. Then she thanked Yanwu. She explained that she was grateful for how Yanwu had handled the earlier situation. Yanwu reassured her that she had not done it out of obligation. She had spoken honestly. The answer clearly affected Sarim. Without warning, she stepped forward and hugged Yanwu tightly. The gesture was unexpected but heartfelt. In a quiet yet unwavering voice, she pledged her loyalty. For a brief moment, the atmosphere felt warm and peaceful. Unfortunately, it did not last. A group of men approached. Their arrival immediately shattered the calm. Their comments were intrusive, disrespectful, and inappropriate. Sensing trouble, Sarim attempted to leave with Yanwu before the situation could escalate. However, one of the men suddenly reached out and grabbed her arm. Sarim cried out in pain as his grip tightened around her wrist. Yanwu reacted instantly. Raising her voice, she demanded that the man release Sarim immediately. The shock and anger in her expression were impossible to miss. The situation escalated rapidly. Then, without warning, a figure wearing a silver mask appeared. Everything stopped. One of the men immediately stepped forward, his face twisted with irritation and anger. In a loud, aggressive voice, he demanded to know who the masked stranger was. Another man did not even bother asking questions. Instead, he hurled an insult and charged forward, raising his fist. He demanded to know what the masked man thought he was doing by interfering. His attack failed completely. Not only did he miss, but he also lost his balance and crashed face first onto the ground in an embarrassing display. The atmosphere changed instantly. Unwilling to back down, the rest of the men rushed forward together. What followed was brief but decisive. The masked man moved with calm precision. Every movement was controlled, efficient, and effortless. One by one, the men were knocked down. Within moments, the fight was over. The troublemakers lay scattered across the ground, completely defeated. The masked man looked down at them calmly before questioning their behavior. How could they roam around in groups simply to harass women? Did they feel no shame for what they had done? His words left no room for argument. Afterward, he turned toward Yan Wu and Serim. To Yan Wu's surprise, Serim immediately recognized him. Utah. Hearing the name, Yan Wu quickly thanked him for stepping in when he did. Serim also lowered her head respectfully and remarked that it had been a long time since they last met. Confused, Yan Wu glanced between them. She had not expected Serim to know him. Utah casually responded by teasing Serim, saying that she was still just as shameless as her master. Rather than arguing, Serim simply accepted the remark as though she had heard it many times before. Watching the exchange left Yan Wu feeling slightly uncomfortable. She was not entirely sure how to interpret their relationship. Utah's attention shifted toward her. His tone became noticeably less teasing as he asked whether she had been hurt. Yan Wu assured him that she was fine and thanked him once again. Without another word, Utah suddenly leaped onto a nearby rooftop. The movement was so effortless that it stunned everyone watching. A moment later, he disappeared from sight. Whispers immediately spread among the surrounding crowd. People were confused by what they had just witnessed. Serim turned toward Yan Wu and asked whether she was all right, acknowledging how shocking the situation must have been. Curious, Yan Wu asked who Utah really was. Serim explained that he was Hua's twin brother. The revelation completely surprised her. Serim continued, explaining that it was understandable she did not know. Utah rarely appeared in public and was almost always seen wearing a mask. She also revealed that the two brothers did not share a particularly good relationship. For a moment, Yan Wu wondered whether she should inform Hua about the encounter. Serim immediately assured her that she would handle it herself and that there was no need to worry. Elsewhere, Dehi sat among members of her group. Several of them quietly discussed Hua, suggesting that he must be struggling and expressing disappointment that they could not witness it themselves. Dehi calmly advised them not to be too harsh. According to her, Yan Wu likely did not know any better. Situations like this, she said, often became opportunities for people to learn. However, the moment she turned around, she froze. Utah was standing directly in front of her. Startled, she demanded to know why he was there. Before she could react further, he struck her. The action was so sudden that nobody had time to respond. His warning was clear. She was never to lay a hand on that woman again. Shocked and furious, Dehi demanded an explanation. Who was he talking about? Why was she being treated this way? Utah calmly pointed out several small but precise details. The message was unmistakable. He knew exactly what she had done, and there would not be a second warning. Even so, as he left, a slow smile spread across Dehi's face. Rather than feeling afraid, her thoughts drifted toward darker possibilities. Back at the palace, Yan Wu lay on her bed. For reasons she could not fully explain, she felt exhausted. After resting for a while, she eventually sat up. Then she began cleaning. For Yan Wu, cleaning was more than a chore. It brought order to her surroundings and helped organize her thoughts. She moved quietly through the room, focusing on one task at a time. Eventually, Serim entered. The moment she saw Yan Wu scrubbing away with such determination, she looked surprised. Questioning what she was doing, Serim attempted to take the broom away. Yan Wu quickly insisted that she enjoyed cleaning and explained that it had become a habit. Although still concerned, Serim eventually took the broom anyway. Yan Wu reassured her once more that there was nothing to worry about. Satisfied for the moment, Serim announced that she would return later and left the room. Once alone again, Yan Wu continued cleaning. While tidying one of the shelves, she noticed a small box stored high above. Curious, she carefully brought it down. Opening it slowly, she discovered several valuable items inside. Among them was a ribbon it looked like something that belonged to a woman. Holding it for a moment, she paused. Then she quietly told herself that it had nothing to do with her, and carefully placed it back inside the box. Just as she closed the lid, a voice spoke behind her. Startled, she turned around. Hua stood there with his arms crossed, silently observing her. Panic immediately flashed through her mind. Had he seen everything? Quickly she explained that she had only been cleaning. Hua raised an eyebrow and suggested that if she needed help, she could have simply asked someone else. Shaking her head, Yan Wu insisted that she could manage on her own. Besides, she genuinely enjoyed cleaning. Accepting her explanation, Hua nodded. However, he asked her to make sure everything was returned to its proper place afterward. Surprised, she listened as he explained that the room had originally belonged to him, although he found it somewhat embarrassing to admit. Disorder made him uncomfortable. He could not truly relax unless everything was where it belonged. Yan Wu agreed, yet her thoughts immediately drifted back to the ribbon. She remembered him once mentioning that this was the first time he had brought a woman into that space. Before she could dwell on it further, her thoughts shifted toward Utah and the encounter from earlier. Mentioning it, she explained what had happened. Hua revealed that he had actually come to discuss the same matter. Yan Wu commented that Utah felt strangely familiar, though she had only seen him wearing a mask. Hua listened carefully. She clarified that she had never seen his face, only sensed a similar aura. An awkward silence followed. Immediately she wondered whether she should have said anything at all. Deciding to escape the uncomfortable moment, she stood and announced that she would finish cleaning before returning shortly. As she carried a basin of water toward the door, Hua asked whether she was heading outside. Pausing, she calmly asked whether it mattered. Rather than answering directly, Hua stepped closer and adjusted her gown. He reminded her that many eyes were watching outside. Quietly, she thanked him. Hua then observed that it was fortunate she had not been injured. He even remarked that, given enough time, Utah might prove useful. The comment immediately made Yan Wu decide that she would never mention Utah again. Quickly announcing that she was leaving, she headed toward the door. Hua watched her go. Then he suddenly called out, telling someone to stop eavesdropping. A visibly embarrassed Sarum emerged from hiding. Hua asked whether she agreed with Yan Wu's observation that Utah and he seemed similar. Sarum calmly replied that such an observation was natural considering they were twins. Hua chuckled. He wondered aloud how Utah would react if he heard that, especially since he disliked resembling Hua and constantly hid behind a mask. Remaining composed, Sarum assured him that Utah would probably understand. Eventually, Hua nodded. For everyone's sake, it was probably best not to bring Utah up again. Later that evening, Hua and Yan Wu sat together sharing dinner. Hua mentioned that Sarum had personally prepared the meal and insisted that Yan Wu try it. Looking across the table, he remembered that she enjoyed spicy and oily foods and asked whether she still had room to eat more. Yan Wu nodded. Taking a bite, she immediately declared that it was her favorite. Hua smiled slightly and remarked that he would remember that. He then encouraged her to relax and enjoy the evening. As they ate, Yan Wu found herself remembering the days when she used to drink alone after composing music. It had been a very long time since she had enjoyed a moment as peaceful as this. Without realizing it, she softly hummed a familiar melody. Hua noticed immediately. Curious, he asked whether it was a song she liked. Smiling, she admitted that it was. She quickly apologized for humming aloud. Hua dismissed the apology. According to him, a drink without elegance felt incomplete. Then he picked up a daejeon and began playing a song. It was his way of thanking her for sharing the untitled piece with him. Yan Wu listened quietly as the soft notes filled the room. The music flowed beautifully. She found herself thinking that Hua was talented not only with the daejeon, but with many instruments. For the first time, she truly understood why so many people admired him. As she listened, another thought surfaced. Hua enjoyed trying new things, but perhaps he also became bored quickly. Lost in thought, she accidentally spoke the concern aloud. The moment the words left her mouth, Hua stopped playing. Looking directly at her, he asked how she could possibly say something like that. Horrified, Yan Wu immediately covered her mouth. She had not meant to say it aloud. Quickly, she reassured him that she had not intended any offense. Standing up, she began listing all of his positive qualities instead. She praised his kindness, his skill with instruments, his attentiveness, and the way he cared for her family. As she spoke, Hua watched her carefully. Meanwhile, Yan Wu grew increasingly aware of her own words. A mixture of surprise, gratitude, and nervousness swirled inside her. She realized just how much she appreciated him. The room gradually fell silent. Then Hua suddenly moved closer. His face drew nearer to hers. Yan Wu looked up in surprise. For a brief moment, the atmosphere felt intimate. Then Hua reached toward her lips. Her heart nearly stopped. A second later, he held up a tiny crumb. Apparently, it had been stuck there the entire time. Frowning, Yan Wu thought he could have simply told her. Still, she quietly thanked him. A small smirk appeared on Hua's face. Glancing outside, he remarked that it had grown late and suggested they call it a night. Yan Wu agreed. As she prepared to leave, Hua sighed dramatically and commented that it was a shame for the evening to end so soon. She laughed softly. According to him, time always seemed to pass far too quickly whenever they were together. Smiling, Yan Wu wished him good night before returning to her room. Lying on her bed, she found herself unable to sleep. Her thoughts refused to settle. The memory of how close Hua had been lingered in her mind. More than anything, she wanted to understand what these growing feelings meant. The next morning, Hojo rode toward Hua's residence in his chariot. Along the way, he recalled a recent conversation with Lord Zhang Gong. His birthday celebration was approaching, and Hua had been invited to attend. Muttering to himself, Hojo questioned why he had to see Hua so early in the day. By the time he reached the palace gates, his mood had only worsened. The guards immediately bowed. When they explained that Hua was not currently present, Hojo interrupted them before they could finish. Furious, he demanded to know why they expected him to wait without any indication of when Hua would return. Terrified, the guards hurriedly apologized. They explained that they had only intended to inform him of the situation. Hojo waved off the explanation. Then he asked whether anyone else remained inside the residence. Moments later he gave a direct order, "Take him to Yan Wu." His determination to see her was unmistakable. Inside the residence, Yan Wu woke to a commotion outside. Still half asleep, she rubbed her eyes and wondered what was happening. Calling for Sarum, she asked whether something was wrong. Then a familiar voice cut through the noise. A wide smile appeared before her. "Hojo. I came to the right place after all," he said cheerfully. The moment she saw him, shock surged through her mind. What was he doing here? Sarim cried out immediately, urging Yan Wu to go back inside. However, Hojo continued pushing forward. Several maids rushed to steady Sarim, preventing her from falling. Furious, Yan Wu stepped forward and confronted him. She shouted that this was someone's home and that even though he was Lord Hojo, he could not simply enter whenever he pleased. To her surprise, he smiled. Rather than taking offense, he seemed delighted that she recognized him. Watching his reaction, Yan Wu could only think that he was acting like a complete creep. Did any of this even matter to him? She warned him again that this was Hua's residence and that barging in without permission violated the rules. Hojo placed a hand on his head and muttered about Hua's strict laws. Then he casually mentioned that he had heard she had only recently arrived in the underworld. According to him, it was impressive that she already understood the rules so well. Before she could react, he suddenly took her hand. Looking directly into her eyes, he complimented her skill with the Gaiagium. Then he revealed the real reason he had come. His birthday banquet was approaching, and he wanted her to perform there. He emphasized how remarkable the event would be and how powerful her performance could become. The moment he spoke, Yan Wu's thoughts spiraled. Memories flooded back. She remembered being imprisoned. She remembered the people he had murdered. She remembered her family. After everything he had done to her, he was standing there asking her to perform for him. The absurdity of it made her blood boil. Firmly, she told him to let go of her hand. The refusal clearly surprised him. Demanding an answer, he insisted that she could not simply reject a royal invitation. Frustration and anger exploded inside her. Without hesitation, she struck him. Her fist connected with his face as she repeated her demand for him to let go. The entire courtyard fell silent. The tension between them became overwhelming. Her courage and defiance collided directly with his authority and arrogance, creating a moment filled with danger and unresolved hostility. Hojo stood frozen. Slowly, he touched his cheek. Then, to everyone's astonishment, he burst out laughing. He seemed genuinely amazed that someone would dare strike him after learning his identity. Yan Wu immediately tried to pull back. Carefully, she explained that it had been a mistake and pointed out that if he had released her hand when she asked, none of this would have happened. Hojo considered her words. Admitting that she had a point, he then asked whether that somehow justified injuring him. Yan Wu offered no direct answer still. Hojo seemed to understand the meaning behind her silence. If he was injured, then he could not simply ignore her anymore. Before she could react, he stepped closer and suddenly pulled her into an embrace. At the same time, he loudly ordered the guards to arrest the criminal who had injured a member of the royal family. Sarim immediately protested. She insisted that such a thing could not happen. The guards ignored her. They followed Hojo's command without hesitation. As the situation spiraled further out of control, Yan Wu could not help wondering whether everything truly had to end this way. Then, another voice cut through the chaos. Turning around, she saw Hua. His arrival immediately changed the atmosphere. Hojo wasted no time. Pointing toward Yan Wu, he declared that Hua's lover had assaulted him and that he intended to take her away for punishment. Unlike everyone else, Hua remained completely calm. Rather than addressing the accusation immediately, he began asking questions. Why had Hojo's private soldiers entered his residence without permission? Why were they standing in the backyard instead of the reception hall? And why had Hojo been grabbing Yan Wu's wrist in the first place? The questions only made Hojo angrier. Grabbing Hua's clothing, he called him insolent. Hua remained unshaken. He calmly pointed out the trespassing, the harassment, and the possibility of rumors spreading throughout the underworld. Amused despite himself, Hojo remarked on Hua's sharp tongue and demanded to know what he was suggesting. Hua simply replied that if Hojo left immediately, everyone could pretend nothing had happened. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then Hojo laughed. He admitted that Hua had trapped him in a clever position. Eventually, he agreed, but only under one condition. At his birthday banquet, he wanted to hear Yan Wu play the Gaiagium. After some consideration, Hua accepted. Satisfied, Hojo finally allowed the matter to rest, at least for the time being. The conversation continued. Hua questioned why Hojo suddenly seemed interested in Yan Wu's music. Hojo explained that rumors of her extraordinary performance had spread throughout the underworld. Naturally, he wanted to witness it himself. He then asked whether Hua would allow her to accompany him. Hua immediately corrected him. Yan Wu was not his servant. She was his lover. Any decision would be hers alone. Standing quietly nearby, Yan Wu felt only one thing. She never wanted to see Hojo again. However, she also understood that refusing him outright would create problems for Hua. That was something she could not allow. In the end, she agreed to attend the banquet. but only under one condition. She stated her terms clearly. Later, Hojo was seen walking through his palace early in the morning. His fiancée Vivian noticed his unusually good mood and asked why he had returned so early. As he passed by, she silently wondered whether he had finally lost his mind. Meanwhile, Hojo's attention shifted toward a large portrait hanging nearby. Looking up at it, he muttered that he finally remembered where he had seen Yan Wu before. A faint look of recognition crossed his face. The memory lingered, mixed with irritation and curiosity. Later that evening, Yan Wu sat quietly beneath the night sky. Her thoughts remained fixed on the upcoming banquet. She questioned whether agreeing to perform had been a mistake. Perhaps she should have refused. As she wrestled with her thoughts, a voice called out behind her. Turning around, she saw Hua approaching. He carried a bowl and a container of ointment. Taking his seat beside her, he carefully applied medicine to her injury. After examining it, he remarked that the bruise looked worse than he expected. Even with treatment, a mark might remain. Then, with a hint of dry humor, he observed that things could have turned out far worse considering how close she had come to being dragged into serious trouble. He also apologized for the chaos that had unfolded earlier. Yan Wu lowered her eyes. Privately, she admitted to herself that fear had influenced her actions more than she wanted to admit. Trying to ease the tension, she brushed off his concerns. However, Hua had another question. He pointed out that the incident with Hojo was only their second meeting. At first, she did not understand why he mentioned it. Then he explained. After speaking with Lord Zhonggong, he had learned from Saram about the day Yan Wu returned home early and how Hojo had been seen near her. At the time, he had chosen not to press the issue because she seemed unwilling to discuss it. Now, however, things were different. Seeing her injured made it impossible to ignore. Quietly, he asked whether Hojo had been the reason she looked so pale that day. Yan Wu looked down. There was no point denying it anymore. Softly, she admitted the truth. She explained everything. How Hojo had mocked her. How she had chosen not to mention it because she never expected to see him again. And certainly never expected him to show up at her home. As she spoke, she reflected on how foolish she had been. She truly believed that their first encounter would also be their last. Even knowing how reckless Hojo was, she had underestimated him. She confessed that after refusing his demand to perform, he had attempted to use force. She had tried to handle everything herself. Instead, she ended up creating trouble for Hua as well. Listening to her story filled Hua with anger. Still, he kept his expression controlled. He firmly told her not to apologize. The person who suffered most was her, not him. He reminded her that he had already promised to protect her. No matter what happened, she could rely on him. The reassurance filled her with relief. Standing up, she thanked him sincerely. Then a small smile appeared. Admitting it felt somewhat satisfying, she revealed that she was still pleased about slapping Hojo. Hua laughed. He congratulated her on the achievement. Then he casually admitted that perhaps he had let Hojo leave too easily. Part of him was tempted to go back and hit him again. Alarmed, Yan Wu immediately grabbed his arm and insisted that enough was enough. She reminded him of the condition she had forced Hojo to accept. He would never enter Hua's residence like that again. Furthermore, this birthday banquet would be both her first and last. Hojo had agreed and sworn to honor those terms. Hua's expression darkened slightly. He warned her that she still did not fully understand how dangerous Hojo truly was. According to him, Hojo was impulsive, unpredictable, and capable of changing his attitude in an instant. His promises could not be trusted completely. Taking her hand gently, Hua urged her to avoid Hojo whenever possible. Regardless of what happened, he would protect her. After a moment of hesitation, Yan Wu finally shared something she had never openly admitted. Hojo reminded her of her former husband, not only in appearance but also in personality. That similarity terrified her. She remembered being locked away out of jealousy. She remembered watching people around her suffer while she remained powerless to stop it. But this time was different. This time she was keeping the promises she had made to herself. Hua listened carefully. Then he assured her that she was no longer fighting alone. They would face it together. Eventually, the day of the banquet arrived. Elsewhere, Hojo reflected that everything was proceeding smoothly. Unlike before, he was no longer facing the situation alone. The pieces had already been set into motion. Now all that remained was to see how events unfolded. Meanwhile, Hua and Yan Wu walked together through a grand hallway. Both were dressed elegantly as they approached the banquet hall. At the far end, Hojo announced the arrival of his honored guests. Hua offered formal congratulations on his birthday. Hojo immediately dismissed them as insincere. Instead, he asked whether all preparations had been completed. His attention remained fixed on Yan Wu. Soon, a Gaijium was placed before her. Carefully, she took her position. As Hojo watched, he noticed something different about her. For some reason, she looked as though she might burst into tears at any moment. Yet her eyes remained fixed on him. Curious and expectant, he waited to see how she would entertain him. Earlier, before the performance, Hua had noticed her discomfort. When he asked if she was all right, she admitted that no matter how resilient a person might be, Performing for someone they disliked was never easy. Before she could continue, Hua interrupted. Rather than thinking of Hojo, he told her to imagine she was performing for him. Back in the present, she remembered those words. Somehow, they brought her comfort. Taking a slow breath, she began. First, she thanked everyone for inviting her to such a special occasion. Then she dedicated the performance to Hojo's birthday. Privately, however, she acknowledged a different truth. The piece she was about to play had originally been written with anger toward him. Silently, she prayed that he would not look at her the way he once had. The music began. As the notes flowed through the hall, Hojo's expression gradually changed. Something within the performance disturbed him. Beside him, Vivian stood and asked whether he was all right. Without thinking, he brushed her hand away. The emotion stirred by the music had consumed his attention. Yanwu continued playing. Despite the anger and scrutiny directed at her, she never faltered. The song continued until the final note faded. Then she stood. The room erupted into applause. Later that evening, Hua praised her performance. He admitted that he had worried about her. Apparently, he had worried for nothing. Yanwu smiled. She told him that she had followed his advice. Throughout the entire performance, she imagined that she was playing for him rather than Hojo. His support had given her the courage to continue. After thanking him sincerely, she immediately wondered if her words had sounded too much like a confession. That had not been her intention. She only wanted him to know how much strength he had given her. A cool wind swept through the evening air. Noticing it, Hua suggested that they head inside. Yanwu hesitated. The performance was over. Yet one concern remained. Hojo could still be somewhere nearby. Noticing the change in Yanwu's expression, Hua offered to fetch a quilt for her. She agreed and remained seated on the grass, quietly reflecting on their earlier conversation. At least, she thought, her words had not sounded too burdensome. Just then, someone greeted her from behind. Surprised, she turned around. Unsure of who it was, she politely returned the greeting. Before she could react any further, the stranger suddenly shoved her to the ground. Startled, Yanwu cried out and demanded to know what he was doing. The man stared down at her with fury burning in his eyes. Then he asked a question that left her completely stunned. "Are you the bride of the god of death?" For a moment, Yanwu could only stare. The accusation, combined with the sudden attack, left her frozen. In an instant, the peaceful evening she had been sharing with Hua vanished and was replaced by danger. Her heart raced as she struggled to understand what was happening. The man, identified as Hyansa, continued his accusations. Confused, Yanwu demanded to know what he meant. Hyansa refused to hold back. He accused her of pretending and insisted that being the bride of the god of death was the true reason Hua had accepted her. As he spoke, his grip tightened around her throat. The pressure grew stronger. Breathing became difficult. With every passing second, panic rose inside her. Hyansa continued ranting, claiming that Hua intended to use her to obtain the full power of the god of death. He even suggested that Hua planned to replace Lord Hojo himself. Yanwu could barely process his words. Her vision blurred. Air no longer reached her lungs. The situation became more dangerous by the second. Then everything changed. A powerful punch crashed directly into Hyansa's face. The force sent him flying across the ground. Yanwu immediately recognized the person who had intervened. It was Hua. Hyansa wiped the blood from his mouth and glared at him. Demanding an explanation, he questioned why Hua had attacked him. Instead of responding verbally, Hua struck him with a spell. The attack forced Hyansa backward. However, rather than retreating, Hyansa suddenly revealed the source of his confidence. His guardian spirit was a snake, and among all snake spirits, he claimed the pit viper was one of the deadliest. He explained that once he activated its power, venom spread throughout his entire body. Had Hua remained in contact with him any longer, his arm would have begun rotting away. Worse still, Hyansa claimed the poison would continue spreading unless the infected limb was removed. With a mocking grin, he questioned whether the mighty black wolf was truly as powerful as everyone believed. Hearing this, Yanwu felt a wave of shock, but Hua's response was simple. "This is nothing." Before Hyansa could react, Hua punched him again. The blow slammed him into the ground. Then Hua calmly declared that before he ever considered cutting off his own arm, he would simply kill Hyansa instead. Did Hyansa truly think he was so incompetent that he could not handle a little poison? For the first time, Hyansa looked uncertain. Recovering quickly, he cast another spell and launched a fresh attack. Very well. If Hua wished to be stubborn, then Hyansa would enjoy watching the poison slowly destroy him. The battle resumed. Yet despite Hyansa's confidence, Hua completely reversed the situation. Within moments he had him pinned to the ground by the neck. The fight was over. Yanwu cried out in alarm. Then she suddenly felt a tap on her shoulder. Turning around, she found Hojo standing behind her. Immediately, everyone's attention shifted toward him. With a calm smile, Hojo suggested that perhaps the festive atmosphere had caused the snake spirit to make several foolish mistakes while intoxicated. He offered an apology on Hyansa's behalf. Then he remarked that both Hua and Yanwu appeared quite startled. Hua ignored the attempt at diplomacy and looked ready to continue the fight. Seeing this, Yan Wu desperately called out to him. She begged him to stop. At this rate, before she could finish speaking, Hua suddenly lifted her into his arms. Carrying her effortlessly, he turned toward Hojo. His voice remained cold and controlled. You should take responsibility for the incident your subordinate caused today. Hojo's smile widened. I will handle it personally, he replied. Without another word, Hua carried Yan Wu away. Looking up at him, she softly called his name. She tried to assure him that she was fine. Hua said nothing. His silence made it clear that he was far more upset than he wished to show. As a result, she chose not to speak further while he carried her toward the carriage. Nearby, Sarum welcomed them back. Once they returned to the mansion, Yan Wu explained everything that had happened. Sarum's reaction was immediate. Shock quickly transformed into anger. She demanded to know whether Hyansa had completely lost his mind. His actions were unacceptable under any circumstances, especially on the day of his master's birthday. Not only had he insulted a guest, but he had also directly challenged Hua's authority. Quietly, Yan Wu questioned whether that was truly the real issue. The comment immediately caught Sarum's attention. She asked what Yan Wu meant. Yan Wu admitted that this was the first time she had ever seen Sarum so angry. The realization made her wonder whether she had caused trouble for everyone. Sarum stared at her in disbelief. She reminded Yan Wu that she had nearly been killed. Even she felt furious on her behalf. The response surprised Yan Wu. Privately, she found herself admiring Sarum even more. For a brief moment, she imagined that Sarum's guardian spirit must be something powerful, perhaps even a dragon. As the conversation continued, Sarum openly admitted that she disliked anyone whose guardian spirit was a snake. She confessed that she had never liked Hyansa from the beginning, especially because of the trouble he constantly caused as one of Hojo's aides. Hearing this brought Yan Wu's thoughts back to Hyansa's earlier accusation, the bride of the god of death. At first, she considered remaining silent. Eventually, curiosity won. She admitted that Hyansa had said something strange and repeated the title aloud. Then she asked a simple question. What exactly was the bride of the god of death? The moment those words left her mouth, Sarum froze. For a long moment, she said nothing, and that silence revealed far more than any explanation could have. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the underworld, Hyansa sat in Hojo's palace nursing his injuries. Pain, humiliation, and anger consumed him. He cursed Hojo repeatedly. After all, he had been beaten nearly to death over a woman who did not even belong to Hojo. As blood stained his clothing, memories resurfaced. He remembered a previous warning from Hojo. At the time, he had begged for forgiveness. Hojo had ignored him completely. Instead, he had beaten him mercilessly and issued only one command. Now, reflecting on everything, Hyansa began connecting the pieces together. Rumors had been spreading throughout the underworld, stories about the god of death, stories about a weakness. According to those rumors, the god of death could not access his full power during the day. If someone managed to kill him during that vulnerable period, they could seize his power and become stronger. However, there was one condition: a bride. If the god of death united with his bride, then his power remained intact even during daylight hours. The weakness disappeared completely. Slowly, Hyansa's thoughts darkened. The conclusion seemed obvious. The bride of the god of death was the key. If he could reach her first, before either Hua or Hojo claimed her, everything would change. Filled with thoughts of revenge, he imagined stripping the god of death of his power and repaying every humiliation he had suffered. Then a voice interrupted him. The sound instantly shattered his concentration. Turning around, he froze. Yuta stood behind him. Fear immediately gripped him. Confused and shaken, Hyansa demanded to know what kind of creature he truly was. Yuta ignored the question. Instead, he brought up the attack on Yan Wu. Coldly, he accused Hyansa of laying hands on his woman. Then he drew his sword. Hyansa immediately tried to deny everything. He never finished. The blade pierced straight through his body. He screamed. Yet moments later, confusion replaced his fear. Touching his chest, he discovered no wound. Nothing had happened. He was absolutely certain he had been stabbed. Yuta glanced down at the weapon. Calmly, he remarked that it was the wrong sword. This blade, he explained, could not kill someone who was already dead. The statement stunned Hyansa. Then he noticed something else. Yuta was casting a spell. 4 spirits appeared around him. Not ordinary spirits. Black spirits. At that moment, realization struck. This was not merely Hua's brother. This was the god of death himself. Yuta's expression turned frighteningly cold. He entrusted Hyansa to the black spirits. If Hyansa was lucky, he might survive. If he was unlucky, he would beg for death long before the end. The spell activated. Immediately, Hyansa began screaming. He begged for mercy. He apologized. He swore never to touch Yan Wu again. None of it mattered. Yuta remained completely expressionless. Watching the punishment unfold, he calmly remarked that Hyansa should never have done it in the first place. The scene ended there. Back at Hua's mansion, Yan Wu expressed her heartfelt gratitude. Without Hua's intervention, she truly did not know what would have happened to her. Before she could finish speaking, Hua suddenly pulled her into an embrace. Immediately, she noticed something alarming. His body felt incredibly hot. Panic spread through her. Calling for serum, she demanded that a doctor be summoned at once. However, Hua refused. Again and again, he insisted that no doctor be called. Even as Yanwu tried explaining how serious his condition seemed, he continued refusing. Eventually, Hua was helped inside and laid down to rest. Yen Wu remained beside him. When Sarum suggested that the servants take over and encouraged her to rest as well, she refused. She wanted to stay. Seeing her determination, Sarum accepted her decision. She instructed the other maids to return to their duties. Besides, she suspected Hua would prefer having Yan Wu nearby. Soon they were alone. Yan Wu soaked a cloth in cool water and gently placed it on Hua's forehead. Quietly, she scolded him for being reckless. Then she took his hand. Overcome with emotion, she pressed a soft kiss against it. Fear tightened her chest. The thought of something happening to him because of her was unbearable. Just as she began speaking, she felt movement. Hua's fingers shifted. A moment later, his hand brushed gently against her hair. The room fell silent. Realizing he was awake, Yan Wu immediately leaned closer. She explained that she had honored his request and had not called a doctor. Still, if he was in pain, she would summon one immediately. Hua stopped her. Instead, he focused on her face. Then he asked a simple question. Why was she crying? Gently, he wiped away the tears gathered in her eyes. Embarrassed, Yan Wu denied it immediately. Hua smiled softly. Perhaps he had been mistaken. For a moment, he truly thought he had seen tears. The familiar kindness in his voice reminded her that this was exactly who he was. After a short pause, Hua admitted that he needed more rest. Before he could retreat into silence again, Yan Wu suddenly scolded him. She told him never to act so recklessly again. The thought of losing him had terrified her. Without realizing it, she repeated many of the same words he had once used on her. Hua listened quietly, then he admitted something of his own. When he thought something had happened to her, he could see nothing else. Nothing mattered except reaching her. Even if he had looked foolish in the process, he had still managed to protect her. A small smile appeared on his face. Then he asked her a simple question. Surely he could be forgiven for at least that much. As the emotional moment between them deepened, Hua gently pulled Yen Wu closer. Without another word, they shared a kiss. Overwhelmed by everything she had been feeling, Yan Wu finally admitted the truth. She liked him. Gathering her courage, she asked whether he felt the same way. Hua's answer was indirect, but the meaning was unmistakable. According to him, she already knew the answer. Eventually, the night passed. When morning arrived, Yan Wu slowly opened her eyes. For a moment, she stared at the unfamiliar surroundings. Then realization struck. She was in Hua's room. Startled, she sat upright and immediately questioned how she had ended up there. As memories of the previous night returned, her face warmed. After taking care of him, they had kissed. Had she fallen asleep immediately afterward? Looking around, she noticed that Hua was nowhere to be seen. This made her wonder whether he had already recovered. Just then, voices drifted in from outside. Recognizing them, she realized Hua and Sarum were speaking nearby. Sarum explained that she had completed the task he had instructed her to handle. Hua acknowledged her efforts. Then the conversation shifted. Sarum mentioned that Yan Wu had asked about the bride of the god of death. She admitted that she had pretended not to know anything and asked what they should do moving forward. Hua was silent for a moment, then he answered, it was not yet time. Until he was absolutely certain nothing regarding that matter could be revealed to Yan Wu. Furthermore, he added that it would be troublesome if she left before then. Hearing those words sent a chill through Yan Wu. She froze. Questions immediately flooded her mind. Why was Hua speaking about her like that? What exactly was he hiding? Outside, unaware that she had overheard everything, Sarum remarked that Yan Wu would likely wake soon. As Hua approached the door, he instructed Sarum to continue watching over her closely and to report everything, no matter how insignificant it seemed. Sarum agreed without hesitation. Just before opening the door, Hua paused. For a brief moment, he sensed something was wrong. He dismissed it, suggesting it was probably just the servants beginning their work for the day. Inside the room, Yan Wu hurried into a corner. Her thoughts spiraled. The bride of the god of death. What did it mean? Why was Hua trying to confirm something about her? The more she thought about it, the more her doubts grew. She replayed the previous night repeatedly in her mind. Had their feelings been genuine, or had she misunderstood everything? The uncertainty was painful. Suddenly, a knock sounded at the door. Moments later, Hua entered. Seeing her awake, he asked when she had returned to her own room. Yan Wu hesitated. She remembered waking in his room and quietly explained that she had left because she did not want him to see her first thing in the morning. Hua nodded in understanding. Then he thanked her for taking care of him throughout the night. Yan Wu listened silently. Even as he spoke kindly to her, the questions she had overheard continued echoing in her mind. Relief and doubt battled within her. No matter how much she wanted to trust him, uncertainty had already taken root. Hua raised his healed hand and waved it lightly in front of her face. The improvement was obvious. He credited her care for his recovery. Yan Wu agreed that he looked much better. Hua then remarked that he owed her a considerable debt. The statement confused her. Part of her wondered whether he truly remembered everything from the previous night. Noticing her strange expression, he asked whether she was feeling unwell. Quickly, she reassured him that she was merely tired and distracted from waking up. Trying to redirect the conversation, she asked where he had been. Hua explained that he had gone for an early morning walk to enjoy the dawn. She nodded and reminded him not to push himself too hard. His body might still be recovering. As she observed him, a suspicion lingered. Perhaps he really was hiding something. Yet even if that were true, she felt powerless to do anything about it. She had nowhere else to go. At that moment, Hua noticed something. There was blood on her thumb. The memory of the conversation she had overheard immediately resurfaced. Instinctively, she pulled her hand away. The reaction surprised him. Yan Wu quickly apologized and explained that she had simply been startled. Hua shrugged lightly. According to him, she was not the only one who had been surprised. After a brief pause, he suggested she rest and quietly excused himself. The door closed behind him. Later, Yan Wu sat alone on a balcony. The morning's events replayed endlessly in her mind. She remembered pulling away from him. The image made her cringe. He must have been shocked. Still, she reminded herself that whether he was hiding something or not, her situation remained the same. The contract between them proved how much he was willing to sacrifice. He had even endangered himself because of her. As her thoughts wandered, something brushed against her foot. Looking down, she spotted a small fox. Surprised, she picked it up. At first, she assumed it was a puppy. The tiny creature looked harmless and adorable. Smiling softly, she held it in her hands while continuing to think about the complicated bond she shared with Hua. A moment later, Saram arrived. The instant she saw the animal, she let out a frustrated sigh. Apparently, this was not the first time such a thing had happened. Walking over, she picked up the creature and muttered that it would forget everything later anyway. Her words immediately confused Yan Wu. Wondering whether Saram was talking to the puppy, she looked closer. That was when Saram explained the truth. The puppy was Soho. Saram nodded. She explained that his guardian spirit was still very young and occasionally transformed on its own. Furthermore, it was not a dog at all. It was a wolf. The revelation only made the situation stranger. Saram then warned her to pretend she knew nothing whenever Soho was around. Otherwise, he would be deeply embarrassed. The entire situation felt oddly amusing. For the first time all morning, Yan Wu found herself smiling. Curious, she reached out and gently touched the tiny wolf. It was her first time seeing a guardian spirit up close. To her surprise, it looked no different from an ordinary animal. That observation reminded her of Hua. His guardian spirit was also a wolf. The thought led her back to a conversation they had shared before. Hua once mentioned that he had visited the upper grounds as a child, only for his guardian spirit to lose control and drag him away. Remembering that story, she asked whether possessing a guardian spirit made it possible to travel to the upper grounds. The answer came immediately. No. If such a method existed, everyone would have already left. Saram further explained that only a handful of people had ever reached the upper grounds and returned. Even those individuals had no idea how it happened. Yan Wu accepted the explanation. Then she asked another question. Had anyone from the upper grounds ever gained a guardian spirit? Saram began answering, then suddenly stopped. Instead, she narrowed her eyes and asked why Yan Wu was so interested in the subject. The atmosphere shifted immediately. Caught off guard, Yan Wu struggled to respond. Then Saram asked a more direct question. Did she want to return to the upper grounds? Privately, Saram worried about the complications that would arise if she did. Sensing the danger in the conversation, Yan Wu quickly claimed it was only curiosity. Nothing more. Even so, Saram looked unconvinced. Gently, she pointed out that Yan Wu always tried to carry everything by herself. Then she reminded her of something important. She was not alone anymore. Both Saram and Hua stood beside her. Even if a concern seemed insignificant, she should share it. Touched by the reassurance, Yan Wu thanked her. She promised that she would try relying on them more often. Elsewhere, another scene unfolded. A woman named Saul sat before Hojo, playing the Geijum. The performance ended. Immediately, something felt wrong. Hojo stared at her. Then he ordered her to play again. Confused, she explained that she had performed the piece correctly. Hojo disagreed. According to him, the song sounded completely different from the version he remembered. His tone grew increasingly harsh. He accused her of calling him a liar and demanded that she start over. The pressure became unbearable. Finally, he warned her that failure would cost her life. Terrified, the woman trembled and glanced desperately toward Sihong for help. Meanwhile, Sihong observed everything in silence. Within her thoughts, she reached an important conclusion. This situation had never been about the song. The music itself was irrelevant. What Hojo truly wanted was the woman who originally played it. More specifically, he wanted to see Yan Wu again. The realization confirmed every suspicion she had held. What fascinated her most was that Hojo himself did not appear to understand his feelings yet. Because of that, she decided there was no reason to interfere. Moments later, the situation turned tragic. Saul was killed. Despite the brutality, Si-hong smiled. The expression immediately drew Hojo's attention. Questioning her reaction, he demanded an explanation. Quickly recovering, she apologized and claimed she had simply been smiling because of his dignified appearance. Hojo found the answer unpleasant. The conversation ended with a single command: find the woman capable of playing the untitled piece. Bring her to him. Back at Hua's residence, Soho and Sim stood before him and bowed. They had been summoned. While they waited, Sarum kept staring at Soho. The attention made him uncomfortable. Eventually, she remarked that he had returned to his original form and commented that he looked particularly adorable today. The teasing immediately irritated him. He complained that it was not his fault. Before the argument could continue, Hua interrupted and stopped Sarum from tormenting him further. The mood shifted. Hua then asked whether they had learned anything about Hyansa. Soho explained that Hyansa had been interrogated and released shortly afterward. However, because Hojo had personally dealt with him, he now appeared mentally unstable. The information made Hua pause. Someone like Hojo, who rarely cared about anyone, had been acting strangely whenever Yan Wu was involved. It felt as though a crucial piece of the puzzle was still missing. Then Soho revealed something else. After his release, Hyansa had begun spreading bizarre stories. According to him, he had met the god of death. More importantly, he claimed that the reason Hua was keeping a woman in his house was because she was the bride of the god of death. The statement instantly darkened Hua's expression. Anger flashed across his face. Sarum reacted just as strongly. Only after Hua calmed her down did the room return to silence. Yet the accusation lingered in everyone's minds. Because if Hyansa's words contained even a fragment of truth, then the mystery surrounding Yan Wu was far greater than anyone had imagined. Despite Hua's explanation, the concern in the room did not disappear. Sarum immediately pointed out the real problem. If the rumor about the bride of the god of death continued spreading, Yan Wu would be placed in serious danger. There was a reason they had kept everything secret. Until they knew the truth, they did not want her suffering because of something that might ultimately prove false. After thinking for a moment, Hua decided that the best option was to observe the situation. He doubted anyone would take Hyansa's claim seriously. His confidence confused Soho. In response, Soho explained that Hyansa was no longer considered reliable. Ever since leaving prison, his condition had become deeply disturbing. Sometimes he repeatedly smashed his own head against walls until he bled. Other times he clawed at his skin until it tore open. His behavior had become so alarming that even his family could no longer endure it. Eventually, they tied him up and locked him away. Yet during the rare moments when he regained clarity, he repeated the same story again and again. He claimed he had seen the god of death, the white god of death. At that point, Hua finally revealed what had really happened. Utah was responsible. He had given Hyansa's soul to the black spirits. When Soho asked how such a thing was possible, Hua explained, the soul and body were meant to remain together until death. Separating them violated the natural order. The black spirits, however, existed outside those rules. Whether a soul devoured a spirit or a spirit devoured a soul, the outcome was always catastrophic. Because of that, Hyansa would never recover his sanity. What remained of him would only continue deteriorating until he completely lost control. That was precisely why giving a soul to spirits was forbidden. Still confused, Soho questioned how Hua could be certain that Utah was involved. Hua calmly explained that at dawn he had sensed spirits where no spirits should have been. Only gods of death could control them. Since Hua himself had been incapacitated by poison at the time, there was only one possible answer. Utah had done it. Even so, the realization frustrated him. Why would Utah commit such a dangerous act? Elsewhere, the rumor continued spreading through the city. Every retelling made the story more frightening. People whispered that the bride of the god of death had appeared. Some wondered whether even their own masters would soon be summoned to the palace. The gossip only intensified until Dan Hoi arrived. Immediately, she silenced the room and reminded everyone that preparations for the upcoming performance should be their priority. However, her younger sister quickly brought up another rumor. According to reports from Lord Hojo's castle, people capable of performing a song called Untitled were being sought out. The disturbing part was that none of those summoned had returned safely. The news shocked everyone. Dan Hoi immediately remembered Yan Wu performing that very song before Hua. The connection felt impossible to ignore. The others continued talking. They mentioned Saul, a musician whose reputation had been steadily rising. She had gone to the castle full of excitement. She returned as a corpse. As the details accumulated, Dan Hoi's frustration grew. In her mind, all of these problems seemed connected to one person, the mysterious woman who had suddenly appeared. Before the discussion could continue, someone rushed into the room with new information. The performance had been cancelled. Disappointment spread instantly. Many people had been looking forward to seeing Hua. When they asked why, they received another shocking answer. Apparently, Hua had been injured. Some believed the injury occurred during Lord Hojo's birthday banquet. Rumors claimed a major fight had broken out over his lover. Others added that he had even been poisoned. Hearing all of this, Dan Hui connected the pieces together. Immediately, she concluded that Hua had suffered because of Yan Wu. Without hesitation, she stormed out. Ignoring everyone who called after her, she headed straight for Hua's residence. Meanwhile, Yan Wu stood quietly outside Hua's mansion, gazing up at the sky. The peaceful moment did not last. Footsteps approached rapidly. Turning around, she saw Dan Hui rushing toward her. The anger on her face was unmistakable. Without wasting a second, she began accusing Yan Wu. She blamed her for Hua's injuries and demanded to know how she could remain so calm after everything that had happened. Confused, Yan Wu asked what she was talking about. That only made Dan Hui angrier. She brought up the rumors about the untitled song. According to her, everyone summoned to perform it had died. Her accusations became increasingly personal. She claimed Yan Wu charmed men too easily and even suggested she should have been born as a courtesan. Then she questioned how someone like Yan Wu had managed to enter Hua's household at all. Throughout the attack, Yan Wu remained calm. She pointed out that titles meant nothing. More importantly, barging into someone's home and throwing accusations around was selfish and inappropriate. The argument escalated further. Yan Wu challenged her motives, pointing out that what she was expressing was not concern, it was anger directed at the wrong person. Then she challenged Dan Hui's understanding of love itself. What Dan Hui called love seemed forceful and possessive. The observation struck a nerve. Enraged, Dan Hui lashed out and slapped her. The response came immediately. Yan Wu punched her back. The sudden counterattack left Dan Hui speechless. Staggering backward, she fell to the ground, clutching her face. Even then, her anger remained. Demanding answers, she continued blaming Yan Wu for everything. She claimed that her colleagues had died because of her. Yan Wu calmly dismantled the argument. The musicians had been summoned by someone else. They had been ordered to perform a song. They were killed because they failed to satisfy the person who summoned them. None of that had anything to do with her. As the argument continued, the truth became increasingly obvious. This was never about justice. It was jealousy. Once exposed, Dan Hui stopped denying it. She openly admitted her feelings. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the confrontation might finally end. Instead, it became even worse. Driven by desperation, Dan Hui pulled out a hairpin and lunged forward. In her mind, she should have been the one standing beside Hua. Fortunately, the guards intervened immediately. They blocked the attack and warned her to stop before they were forced to summon Hua himself. Even then, Dan Hui trembled with fury. Yan Wu, however, remained composed. Quietly, she asked her to leave. More than anything, she hoped they would never meet again under such circumstances. Soon afterward, Yan Wu returned inside. The moment she entered, Sarum rushed over to inspect her. Worried, she asked whether she had been hurt. At the same time, guilt filled her voice. She apologized for not being there. She felt she had failed in her duty to protect Yan Wu. Yan Wu reassured her. The situation had been handled. Everything was fine. Hearing that, Sarum praised her composure. The tension softened slightly. Then Yan Wu asked about Hua. Sarum explained that he had left the residence temporarily. Something about the explanation felt incomplete. Yan Wu immediately noticed, especially after hearing that the performance had been cancelled. When she questioned Sarum further, the answers remained vague. Apparently, Hua still had responsibilities he needed to handle, though he intended to return early. Yan Wu accepted the explanation outwardly. Privately, however, her thoughts drifted elsewhere. Dan Hui was not the only person interested in Hua. There were many others around him. She knew she had no right to control his choices. Still, for just one day, she wished things could be different. As she touched her face, Sarum noticed. Concerned, she asked whether something was wrong. Instead of answering, Yan Wu simply apologized and retreated inside. The uneasy feeling remained. Later, unable to settle her thoughts, Yan Wu wandered to Hua's favorite place. Barefoot, she stepped into the soft volcanic ash. Absent-mindedly, she kicked it with her feet. As the ash scattered around her, she questioned herself. Why was she so bothered? Hua was merely doing his duty. He was the leader of an entire merchant organization. Of course, other people would seek him out. As she continued kicking at the ash, another realization slowly surfaced. Maybe she had been unfair to Dan Hui. Maybe Dan Hui was not the jealous one. Maybe she was. The thought lingered uncomfortably, then a familiar voice interrupted her. Startled, she spun around. Yuta stood behind her. He asked whether she was feeling better. Mentioning the incident with Hyansa, he apologized for what had happened. Yan Wu assured him that she was fine and thanked him. Then Yuta unexpectedly apologized again. This time he apologized because Hua had been seriously injured. Yan Wu immediately told him not to blame himself. Still, part of her could not help thinking that no matter how strained their relationship was, Hua was still his brother. Before she could say so, Yuta interrupted. Their constitution was unusual, he explained. They healed much faster than ordinary people. The trade-off was that they experienced pain far more intensely. To demonstrate, he showed her his arm. The injury had already healed significantly. Yan Wu found the explanation fascinating. Then a strange thought occurred to her. Cautiously, she asked whether such a condition could cause total memory loss. Utah immediately said no. Embarrassed, she laughed and admitted it was a ridiculous question. Turning away, she listened as he continued speaking. Sometimes severe pain caused confusion. Occasionally, people forgot things they had said. The explanation made her freeze. Her thoughts immediately returned to that night with Hua. Perhaps that was why he seemed unable to remember certain things. Changing the subject, Utah commented that she still enjoyed walking barefoot through the ash. Yan Wu answered honestly. There was no special reason. She simply liked it. It made her feel comfortable. The response seemed to amuse him. Then she asked the question that had been bothering her. Did he really know her before? Utah did not answer directly. Instead, he simply said that he was glad she was all right. The response left her thoughts tangled with even more questions. Meanwhile, rumors continued spreading at Dan Hoi's residence. People whispered excitedly about whether the canceled banquet would be rescheduled. Others wondered whether Hua had already recovered. Many simply expressed excitement at the possibility of seeing him again. Eventually, the gossip shifted toward Dan Hoi herself. Rumors claimed she had gone to Hua's residence and caused a scene involving his lover. The comments were harsh. Dan Hoi's expression darkened as she listened. Then the story shifted into a memory. Long ago, Yan Wu sat alone crying. She desperately wanted to return home. While sitting by herself, she heard music drifting through the air. Curious, she looked outside. There she saw a younger Dan Hoi playing the Gaegeum. Noticing her watching, Dan Hoi called out to her. Then with surprising kindness, she asked whether Yan Wu wanted to try playing music herself. Hesitantly, Yan Wu admitted that she wanted to try. To her surprise, Dan Hoi welcomed the idea and began teaching her. Patiently, she explained the basics of the Gaegeum and guided her through each step. Under her instruction, Yan Wu gradually learned how to play. Before long, Dan Hoi applauded her efforts. She remarked that while Yan Wu's technique was somewhat rough and unpolished, the sound she produced was remarkably beautiful. In fact, it was one of the most moving performances she had heard in a long time. The memory lingered. Back in the present, Dan Hoi slammed her hand onto the table. The recollection only fueled her frustration. Meanwhile, at the banquet hall, the servants warmly welcomed Hua. They expressed how much they had missed him and how relieved they were to see him healthy again. Looking around, Hua noticed someone was absent. Dan Hoi. He casually asked where she was. Before the servants could answer, Dan Hoi arrived herself. With a composed smile, she apologized for being late and took her seat. As the meal began, she spoke first. She explained that she had heard he had been seriously ill. Unable to stop worrying, she had visited his residence. Unfortunately, she encountered Yan Wu instead. Dan Hoi admitted that she might have spoken too harshly during that meeting, and that her words had upset Yan Wu. Because of that, she wished to apologize to Hua as well. As she spoke, she poured wine into a cup and offered it to him. Calling it a gesture of apology, she watched carefully as he accepted it. Hua raised the cup toward his lips. Then he paused. Something felt wrong. The scent was unfamiliar. Slowly, he lowered the cup and asked whether anything unusual had been added to the drink. Immediately, Dan Hoi's composure shattered. Shock flashed across her face. Trembling, she dropped to her knees and began apologizing. Again and again, she admitted she had made a mistake. Calmly, Hua asked a simple question. Had she poisoned the drink? Panicked, she tried to deny it. The words never fully left her mouth. Hua simply remarked that it did not matter. After all, when had he ever refused something she personally offered him? Since she had prepared the drink, it would be rude not to finish it. Without hesitation, he lifted the cup and drank every drop. Dan Hoi cried out in alarm. She begged him to stop. He ignored her completely. Moments later, Hua smashed the empty cup onto the floor. The sound echoed through the room. Dan Hoi flinched. Rising from his seat, Hua stared down at her. His voice was cold. She was no longer one of his people. Furthermore, she was never to appear before him or Yan Wu again. The warning carried no room for negotiation. Then he turned to leave. Desperate, Dan Hoi grabbed the edge of his robe. Tears streamed down her face as she begged for forgiveness. She promised to apologize personally to Yan Wu. She swore she would never behave so recklessly again. All she wanted was another chance. Hua pushed her hand away. Still, she continued speaking. She explained that before meeting him, she had been worthless in the eyes of others. She could not even properly entertain guests. At the Gisang house, she had been treated as a failure. Memories flooded back. She remembered being scolded constantly, being told she was a disappointment, being reminded of every sacrifice her parents had made for her. Returning to the present, she confessed everything. She had survived a cruel life surrounded by people who only caused pain. Her brother enjoyed privilege because of his status. Her parents had sold her for money. Eventually, revenge became the only reason she continued living. Then she met Hua. For the first time, someone showed her that life could have meaning. She admitted that if she could stay beside him, revenge would no longer matter. Loving him felt like the only thing worth pursuing. With tears in her eyes, she asked whether all the time they had spent together had meant nothing. Hua looked directly at her. Then he finally answered. He had never misled her. The only reason he recruited her was because of her exceptional musical talent, nothing more. As the leader of the merchant group, he sought talented individuals. He rewarded skill accordingly. Had he ever treated her differently from any other gifted performer? No. Whatever fantasies she had created belonged solely to her. They were never his responsibility. However, things had changed now. Turning away, he ordered her to pack her belongings immediately. Then he delivered his final judgment. They would never see each other again. Later that evening, Hua rode home on horseback. As the journey continued, he felt his body growing hotter. Only then did he realize the truth. The substance Dan Hui placed in the wine had not been poison, yet its effects were undeniable. Back at the mansion, Yan Wu arranged flowers in Hua's room. She wanted everything to look pleasant before he returned. While working, she found herself remembering Utah. When she asked whether he knew her before they met, he had never given a direct answer. Instead, he simply told her they would meet again soon. The memory lingered. Suddenly, the door opened. Hua entered. One look at him told her something was wrong. His face was tense, his breathing uneven. Immediately, she rushed over and asked whether he was all right. Instead of answering, he questioned why she was there. Yan Wu explained that she wanted him to recover quickly. That was why she brought flowers. She also apologized for entering his room without permission. Hua lifted a hand. There was no need to apologize. Then he groaned in discomfort and told her to leave immediately. Yan Wu frowned. She urged him to rest properly. Banquets and celebrations could wait. His health mattered more. Hua shook his head. The issue was not alcohol. He had consumed a drug, one designed to intensify desire. As he spoke, he admitted something that immediately stunned her. The urge to hold her was becoming unbearable. Confused, Yan Wu lightly touched his arm and asked whether he was truly all right. The admission made little sense to her. Hua immediately pulled away. Turning his face aside, he told her to leave. Yan Wu stood frozen. His words echoed in her mind. He wanted to hold her. Was it only because of the drug? Surely there were others who could help him. The thought had barely formed when Hua stopped her. Firmly, he explained that no one else would help. No one else could. When she asked why, he finally gave an honest answer. Because she was precious to him, especially now. Hearing those words made her heart race. Slowly, Yan Wu guided him toward the bed. Then she asked a question. Did he remember the night when he first became feverish? Hua admitted that he remembered very little. Curious, he asked what had happened. Yan Wu took a breath. Then she revealed the truth. That night, she had confessed her feelings to him. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Hua softly called her name. As she looked at him, Yan Wu finally accepted the truth. Even if their relationship began as a contract, even if there were secrets she still did not understand, she could not stop herself from loving him. Leaning closer, she told him he did not need to restrain himself anymore. Then she kissed him. The moment was filled with emotion, yet before things could go further, Hua gently stopped her. Though his feelings were obvious, he chose restraint. He wanted to cherish her. If he embraced her while under the influence of the drug, she might later question whether his feelings had been genuine. He refused to risk that. Instead, he asked her to stay beside him for the night. He believed he could endure everything else. Yan Wu agreed. However, she gave him one condition. This time, he was not allowed to forget. As a result, the night became something unexpectedly tender. Rather than rushing forward, they simply remained together. When morning arrived, Yan Wu awoke once more in Hua's room. Looking around, she realized he was no longer beside her. A brief moment of confusion followed. Then his voice reached her from across the room. He asked whether she had slept well. Relieved, she smiled and answered that she had. Immediately afterward, she asked about his condition. He admitted that he felt much better, though he also confessed that he was slightly embarrassed. Recently, she had only seen him at his weakest moments. Yan Wu disagreed. There had been good reasons for everything that happened. Even so, as she reflected on the previous night, concern crept into her expression. What if he had forgotten again? Noticing her worry, Hua gently lifted her chin. Then he reassured her. This time was different. He remembered everything. The answer stunned her. Before she could respond, he took her hand and looked directly into her eyes. Rather than continuing a false relationship, he asked a new question. Would she like to become his real lover? Yan Wu did not hesitate. She accepted immediately. Just like that, the contract that had brought them together began transforming into something genuine. Later, rain suddenly began falling. Yan Wu stretched out her hand and watched the droplets land on her skin. The weather changed so quickly, her thoughts immediately drifted to Hua. Had he been caught in the rain? Earlier, he explained that despite wanting to stay with her, he still had responsibilities at the merchant group. Because of that, he needed to leave for a while. She had accepted his explanation calmly and wished him a safe trip. Yet before departing, Hua lingered. Instead of leaving immediately, he kept looking at her. Confused, she asked what was wrong. Hua admitted that if he left now, he would not see her again until dinner. Then he hinted that she had forgotten something. After thinking for a moment, Yanwu finally understood. Rising onto her toes, she gently kissed his cheek. Only then did he leave. The memory brought a smile to her face. For the first time, she truly felt like his lover. She even wondered whether she should take an umbrella later and meet him on his way home. Then a voice interrupted her thoughts. Startled, she turned around. Utah stood behind her. He was completely soaked by the rain. Immediately concerned, Yanwu pointed out that he might get sick. She also explained that Hua had already left. Utah calmly replied that he had not come to see Hua. He had come to see her. The statement only deepened her confusion. This time, Yanwu refused to let him avoid the issue. She demanded answers. Again, she asked whether he had known her before they first met at the market. Rather than answering, Utah asked a question of his own. Did she trust that man? Puzzled, Yanwu demanded clarification. Who was he talking about? When Utah continued avoiding her question, her frustration finally surfaced. She reminded him that he appeared whenever he wished, spoke in riddles, and disappeared before explaining anything. Then, without warning, Utah revealed something shocking. The man she trusted was deceiving her. Yanwu froze. Immediately her thoughts returned to the conversation she had secretly overheard between Hua and Sarim. Could Utah be referring to that? Demanding answers, she pressed him again. What exactly did he know? Utah remained silent. The silence only made her angrier. She demanded to know how he expected her to trust him while refusing to tell her the truth. She questioned his motives. Why reveal something so disturbing if he refused to explain it? Even after her outburst, Utah remained calm. He admitted that everything must seem confusing. Nevertheless, he asked her to trust him. Placing a hand against his chest, he warned her that the person she trusted would eventually bring her nothing but despair. Before he could continue, a sharp pain suddenly struck him. His expression twisted. Immediately he dropped to one knee. Alarmed, Yanwu rushed forward and asked whether he was hurt. Utah looked up at her. Despite the pain, he raised his hand and gently shielded her from the falling rain. Despite the obvious pain he was enduring, Utah urged Yanwu to return inside immediately. Before she could stop him, he turned and walked away. Yanwu called after him several times, asking him to wait, but he never looked back. All she could do was watch him disappear into the rain. A feeling of unease settled heavily in her chest. As she slowly made her way back, Utah's warning echoed through her mind. The more she thought about his words, the more unsettled she became. When she finally returned to the mansion, Sarim was already waiting outside. Without delay, Sarim handed her a message that had just arrived from a visitor. Curious, Yanwu opened it. The moment she read the contents, her face drained of color. According to the message, her mother had suddenly collapsed. Panic seized her instantly. She called out for help and demanded that a physician be summoned at once. Sarim quickly tried to calm her down. She urged Yanwu to leave immediately and promised that she would arrange medical assistance herself. Grateful for the help, Yanwu thanked her and rushed away without wasting another second. Moments later, she burst through the doors of her family's home. Immediately, she called out for her mother. Instead of finding her mother, however, she was greeted by her younger sister, Siwu. The girl smiled brightly and welcomed her home. She even commented on how long it had been since they had last seen each other. Yanwu had no interest in small talk. Alarmed, she demanded to know where their mother was and how serious her condition had become. To her shock, Siwu casually revealed the truth. Their mother's illness had been a lie. The entire story had been fabricated to lure Yanwu back home because she had not visited or contacted them. The revelation ignited immediate anger. Without thinking, Yanwu shoved her sister and scolded her harshly for such a reckless trick. Siwu stumbled backward and quickly defended herself. She insisted that she only lied because she desperately wanted to see her sister. She honestly believed Yanwu would come if she thought something terrible had happened. Before the argument could escalate further, another voice interrupted. Their mother called out from another room asking what all the commotion was about. At once, Siwu let out a startled shriek. Yanwu turned toward the sound. It became painfully clear that the family confrontation was only beginning. A short time later, the entire family gathered together. The atmosphere was tense. Their mother immediately scolded Yanwu for fighting with Siwu after returning home for the first time in so long. Meanwhile, Siwu hurried over and clung to their mother. Trying to defend herself, she explained that it had only been a harmless prank. She claimed she missed Yanwu so much that she simply wanted to see her again. According to her, Yanwu had overreacted. Yanwu refused to accept that explanation. Firmly, she argued that lying about someone's mother collapsing was far beyond a harmless joke. Seeing the situation escalating again, their mother stepped in. First, she turned to Siwu. With a stern expression, she questioned her actions and made it clear that what she had done was wrong. Under her mother's gaze, Siwu eventually lowered her head and offered a proper apology. Only after that did their mother turn her attention toward Yan Wu. She asked why Yan Wu had been out of contact for so long. Then she gently questioned whether Yan Wu understood why Siwu had acted the way she did. Taking a deep breath, Yan Wu forced herself to calm down. She explained that her circumstances had made it difficult to visit or send word. Life had become complicated in ways she could not easily describe. To her surprise, their mother did not argue. Instead, she nodded with understanding. She acknowledged that adapting to a completely new life could not have been easy. For a moment, the tension eased. Yet beneath the calmer atmosphere, Yan Wu could still feel the weight of everything left unsaid lingering between them. The reunion that she had imagined would bring comfort instead felt complicated, tangled with guilt, worry, and expectations that none of them knew how to express properly. As she sat with her family once more, she could not shake the feeling that this visit was about to become far more difficult than she had anticipated. Yan Wu's mother continues, her voice steady but pointed. Even with the distance between them, she says, reaching out would not have been so difficult. Then comes the question that cuts deepest, the rumors of Yan Wu's connection to a powerful man, and why, with such influence at her side, she never once thought to help her struggling family. Is he more important to her now than they are? The accusation lands like a blow. Yan Wu is stunned, scrambling for words, but her mother cuts her off gently. She tells her daughter to go, admitting that she leaned on her too heavily, and apologizes for being so blunt. With that, she guides Yan Wu to bring Siwu inside, her words lingering in the air, firm but unmistakably caring. The door closes behind them, and Yan Wu's thoughts drift inward. Memories surface, unbidden, of her past life, of the family she lost to Hojo, a tragedy she has carried as her own fault for years. Survival became everything to her after that, and somewhere along the way she stopped truly seeing the family she still had. Has she ever really considered what they've been through? Has she let herself live, while quietly forgetting them? Maybe just as her mother said, she's only now beginning to understand what they mean to her. The guilt, the regret, the dawning realization, it all presses down on her at once, threatening to break through. Before she can sink further into it, the door bursts open. Yan Wu's head snaps up, pulled sharply back into the present, bracing for whatever is coming next. Serene storms in, her voice cutting through the tension as she confronts Yan Wu's mother, refusing to let the blame stand. When word came of the illness, she says, the young lady didn't hesitate. She rushed out immediately, out of pure concern. That is not the behavior of someone who has forgotten her family. The mother, caught off guard, asks who this woman even is. Serene answers plainly, she's the maid who saved her daughter's life. Something shifts in the mother's expression, softens. She realizes, perhaps for the first time, just how much her daughter has grown, and she thanks the maid sincerely. But she's quick to add a warning too. Speaking up so boldly in family matters isn't appropriate, and she asks Serene to leave. Yan Wu jumps in, trying to explain that Serene only acted out of worry. But her mother turns back to her, clarifying something Yan Wu hadn't realized. The doctor's visit wasn't necessary because of anything Yan Wu failed to do. She had called for the physician herself. There's nothing left to defend. Understanding settles over Yan Wu, and she apologizes, acknowledging her own part in things. Her mother offers Serene a brief apology too for the harshness of her earlier words. Serene simply clasps Yan Wu's hand, a quiet gesture of gratitude. Yan Wu turns to Siwu, promising to pay closer attention from now on, hoping there won't be any more secrets between them. She gently urges her mother to rest, assuring her that everything will be handled properly. As she's about to leave, her mother calls out warmly, asking, half teasing, whether she'll get a hug after all that tension. Yan Wu doesn't hesitate. She runs forward and embraces her tightly, relief and affection mixing together in that single moment. Serene reminds her gently that the carriage is waiting, and Yan Wu nods, moving quickly to prepare. Meanwhile, Serene quietly hands the mother a package, explaining that it contains gifts Yan Wu had prepared for the family but forgot to bring, and that she's simply delivering them on her behalf. Yan Wu feels something settle in her chest as she steps away. The earlier tension has eased, replaced by warmth, by reconciliation, by the quiet thoughtfulness of the people around her. But something catches her attention. Serene is moving with purpose, almost urgency, and Yan Wu tries to ask what's going on. The maid only urges her to hurry. Inside the chariot, Yan Wu turns to Serene, curious about everything she noticed earlier, especially the diary given to her mother. A diary Yan Wu never wrote. Serene tries to brush it off, explaining the diaries were her own, meant to help preserve Yan Wu's dignity, and apologizes if she overstepped. Yan Wu shakes her head. There's nothing to apologize for. If anything, she's the one who owes an apology. For the misunderstanding earlier, Serene's tone softens further as she asks, carefully, if everything is all right with Yan Wu's family. She's noticed the discomfort Yan Wu has been carrying, and so Yan Wu opens up. She tells Serene about an accident from her childhood, one that left her younger sibling seriously injured, one she's blamed herself for ever since. Life at home was never the same after that. Arguments, financial strain, a weight of guilt she's carried quietly for years. She confesses her lingering sorrow for her parents, for Siwoo, for everything left unspoken. For a moment, it feels like the tension between them has finally eased. And then, everything changes. Arrows slam into the guards surrounding the chariot, the impact jolting everyone inside. Serena's at Yanwu's side instantly, checking her over, voice tight with worry. One of the guards yanks the door open, shouting a warning, telling them the area is too dangerous that they need to move now. But before he can finish, an arrow takes him down. Yanwu freezes. Shock locks her in place as fear and confusion crash over her at once. What is happening? In an instant, the journey has turned into a nightmare, and they are completely exposed. Outside, the guards clash desperately with the attackers, swords flashing in the chaos. Yanwu watches in horror as one of the guards falls, and a wave of fear shudders through her entire body. She can't move, can't think. Not until Serene grabs her hand, hard, forcing her attention back. Yanwu tries to explain, to voice the fear choking her, but Serene cuts through it. They suspected an ambush. There's no time. They have to move. Yanwu's eyes find Soho fighting fiercely against the attackers, buying them precious seconds. Serene grips her hand tighter and pulls her toward what she hopes is safety. But their path is blocked. A man steps into their way, smiling as he draws his sword, asking why they're in such a hurry. The message is clear, running isn't an option. Serene warns him to back off, that this is dangerous, but he strikes first, sending her crashing to the ground. Yanwu looks down, panic flooding her chest. She begs silently for Serene to get up, but she doesn't move. The man grabs Yanwu by the hair, forcing her into silence, into submission, but a sharp voice cuts through the moment, commanding him to let her go. Yanwu lifts her eyes. Miss Danhoi steps forward, ready to intervene. Confused, desperate, Yanwu asks why, but the only answer she gets is cryptic, and it only deepens the dread settling in her chest. Miss Danhoi doesn't wait for more questions. She lunges, pinning Yanwu to the ground, pressing a knife toward her throat, telling her softly that it will all be over soon. Tears stream down Yanwu's face as her mind spins back through everything, through her past death, and strangely, a calm settles over her, even with the blade hovering above. Maybe this is how it was always meant to end. A quiet ending, no more ugliness, no more suffering for the people she loves. Her heart aches, and still the tears won't stop. As the knife begins its descent, everything shifts. She opens her eyes to find herself somewhere else entirely, disoriented, lost. The world around her is unfamiliar, and for a moment, relief and confusion tangled together inside her. The terror, the fear, all of it is still raw, still fresh, but beneath it, something new is forming. A quiet uncertainty. How did she end up here? What happens now? Yanwu looks down at her own hands, thoughts racing. Every time she's died before, she's woken up back at the moment she first fell into the underground world. But this time feels different. A question forms, fragile and unfamiliar. Could this be the last time? Does that mean the cycle is finally over? Relief and disbelief wash over her in equal measure as her thoughts drift, lingering on Hida. Then a voice calls out behind her, asking why she wears such an expression, asking if she's hoping for another chance. Startled, she turns to see a figure stepping out from the shadows. He introduces himself as Tamia, the being she has always thought of as a god. She asks if she's dead now. He tells her it's close, but not quite, and as he speaks, she notices Miss Danhoi frozen above her, knife still raised. Tamia warns her plainly, if things continue as they are, she will die. Yanwu asks why he's only appearing now, recalling the 2 times before when he brought her back after she'd wished for her own life to end. But he only has one question for her. Does she truly want it to end like this? The question shakes something loose inside her. She admits the guilt she's carried her whole life, the pain she's caused others, how she once longed for it all to stop. But things are different now. There's someone who cares about her, someone who worries, who gets angry on her behalf. For the first time, she's glimpsed something close to real happiness. Tears fall freely as she cries out that she wants to live, that she doesn't want this to be the end. Tamia reaches out, touching her forehead gently, and tells her to try just one more time. And then she's back. Ms. Danhoi is mid-strike, the knife inches from her body. Blood splashes as Yanwu's hand instinctively shoots up, blocking the blade, pain searing through her palm. In the same breath, she swings back, landing a fierce punch that sends Danhoi reeling, glaring in shock at the sudden defiance. Yanwu rises, knife now in her grip, mind sharp, focused, alive. The chaos, the fear, the memories of every death before this one, all of it swirls together inside her, but beneath it, something new takes hold. Determination. This moment is hers. To fight, to survive, to live. Miss Danhoi's anger spikes, and her form begins to shift, twisting into that of a fox, the transformation incomplete but unmistakable. She lunges at Yanwu, Certain that this time there will be no escape, the scene shifts. A flashback. A little girl walks hand in hand with a man through falling snow. It's Yan Wu and her father. He warns her that deep in the mountains, foxes sometimes appear, and she must never let go of his hand. To keep her from being afraid, he tells her about them instead, how sharp their hearing and sense of smell are, how quickly they move, how they hunt. When they spot prey, they use their hind legs to launch themselves through the air, throwing their entire body at the target. Back in the present, that memory clicks into place. It's exactly the moment Yan Wu needs. Just as Dan Hoi lunges, she drives the knife into her attacker, and a sharp cry of pain rings out. Dan Hoi screams at her men to catch Yan Wu immediately, but Yan Wu is already running, fighting for her life. The villain rages at her own people, furious that an entire group can't manage to catch one badly wounded woman. Then, suddenly Dan Hoi stops. She points, claiming she can smell blood, and finds a torn scrap of Yan Wu's cloth. Fury lights up her face. She's close. She tears more bloodied fabric to scatter as a distraction, while the man beside her explains that the people of the underground have heightened senses, gifts from the guardian spirit, and that they won't be easily fooled. He asks what her plan is, and she snaps at him, telling him she didn't hire him for commentary. He smiles, clearly entertained by watching her unravel over a single woman. Cutting him off, Dan Hoi raises the stakes, 100 gold coins, all her wealth, to whoever brings Yan Wu to her, alive or dead. The man nods, certain there's no doubt left in his mind. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Yan Wu sits alone, cold, weakened, blood loss draining what little strength she has left. She knows she can't stay hidden much longer. Her mind turns to the bloodied scraps of cloth she scattered earlier as decoys, and to Lord Wheata's residence nearby, her best hope of running into patrolling guards. She forces herself up, gripping onto every reason she has to survive, to save her family, to share a meal with Serene again, to live happily with Lord Hua. And then a fox appears before her, exactly as her instincts warned. The shock hits her hard. Before she can react, the gang leader seizes her from behind, slamming her to the ground, demanding the gold Miss Dan Hoi promised him. The fox doesn't answer. It simply lunges. Yan Wu closes her eyes. This is it, she thinks. Blood splashes again, and her mind clings desperately to one thought: survive, no matter what. She braces for the worst. But nothing comes. Slowly she opens her eyes, and what she sees stuns her. The fox has bitten down on someone's hand. Everyone freezes. The victim is Lord Hua. Miss Dan Hoi, still caught between forms, stumbles back in shock, recognizing him instantly. One of the men nearby reacts in confusion, but Lord Hua turns on him without hesitation, delivering a hard punch and warning him never to show his face again. The fox, startled by the sheer force of his presence, bolts into the trees. Hua orders his men to chase her down, leaving two behind to deal with what remains. Then he turns to Yan Wu, gently helping her to her feet. Relief, surprise, and fear tangle together inside her as she looks at him. His expression shifts the moment he sees her wound, concern overtaking everything else. He carefully begins unwrapping the makeshift bandage on her arm, and she winces, a soft moan of pain escaping her, even as she thanks him. She asks how he found her. He explains simply, he was on his way to meet her when he caught the scent of blood. He admits quietly that he prayed the entire way here. Before rushing off again, he promises that whoever did this to her will be punished. He tells her to stay put, leaving her in the care of the guards. She watches him disappear into the trees, shaken but moved. She can feel just how much he cares for her, how fiercely he's willing to protect her. Deeper in the forest, Miss Dan Hoi is running for her life. She counts her pursuers, more than a few, but none particularly fast. For a moment, she lets herself believe escape is possible. Then the ground runs out. A cliff. Nothing but empty air ahead of her. She turns back to face what's coming. Lord Hua stands there with his guards, and she knows this is the end. Her voice is hollow as she speaks to him, asking him to end her miserable life. But Hua stops. He doesn't move closer. He asks her plainly why he would grant her that. She braces for hatred, for contempt, but it never comes. Instead, he tells her his anger isn't really about her. It's about the fact that someone dared to hurt Yan Wu, the person he cherishes most. And then he simply turns and walks away, indifferent to her plea, leaving her standing there inches from the edge, utterly alone. The next scene opens on a quiet morning. Yan Wu's eyes flutter open to a blurred world. Disoriented, she hears Hita's voice calling out to her, full of concern. Recognition settles in, and she sits up quickly, eager for answers. She asks what happened, the memory of the forest attack flooding back. Hita gently warns her not to push herself. When she asks about Serene and Soho, he reassures her that both are safe, recovering in his house, and relief washes over her. He admits, quietly, that the fear of losing her never really left him. Yan Wu falls silent for a moment, then confesses something deeper. In the moment she thought she might die, part of her had given up. She believed everything was her fault, that if she simply disappeared, all the problems around her would disappear too. But not anymore, she says. She refuses to keep thinking that way. She won't let herself die hopelessly again. Hida is taken aback, asking what she means by again, by like before. And so she tells him, this life, the one she's living now, isn't her first. The revelation lands heavily between them, and for a moment the scene lingers, caught between the fragile hope of survival and the weight of everything she's just shared. Later at Lord Hyda's home, the two lie facing each other, the quiet settling comfortably around them. He brings up an idea, visiting her family tomorrow. She blinks, surprised, asking if he really means tomorrow. He nods, calm as ever, explaining that once they're married, her family becomes his too. As someone who will soon belong to that family, he says, it's only right to greet them properly first. The simplicity of it, the sincerity, makes her smile, and she agrees without hesitation. The next morning, she finds him loading item after item into the chariot. Curious, she asks what it's all for. He explains he wants to make a good impression, worrying aloud that what he's prepared might not be enough. She stares at him in disbelief. It's already far more than enough, she insists. She runs over and hugs him from behind, but he's still eyeing the pile, considering adding more. She reassures him again, and finally, he relents, deciding to save the rest for another time. They set off together and arrive at her mother's home. Siwoo steps out to greet them first, clearly caught off guard by his presence. He introduces himself with easy charm, even inviting her to call him brother-in-law, which she accepts immediately, teasing him about his looks. He just laughs it off, keeping the mood light. Yanwoo's mother comes out next, greeting her daughter warmly after the long journey. They all settle around the dining table and the conversation begins gently. Her mother reflects on Yanwoo's nature, her kindness, her stubbornness, the worry she's caused over the years. She recalls how Yanwoo had insisted on following him when she first arrived, a decision that had worried her deeply at the time. But now, seeing the bond between them, her feelings are far more complicated, especially with marriage on the horizon. Hida responds with quiet respect, acknowledging that his sudden appearance back then must have been unsettling. But their bond, he says, exists because of Yanwoo, and for that, he's grateful. The conversation shifts, growing more serious. Her mother brings up the matter of dowry, her voice tightening as she admits their family simply doesn't have the means, and that the thought of not sending her daughter off properly weighs on her. Yanwoo freezes, the words hitting harder than expected. But before the worry can settle in, Hida speaks gently, reassuring her mother that having Yanwoo by his side is more than enough. No dowry needed. The relief on her mother's face is immediate, and she thanks him sincerely, trusting him completely with her daughter's future. They talk for a long while longer, and eventually the visit draws to a close. Yanwoo and Hida head back together, another quiet step forward on the path they're now walking side by side. Back at Lord Hyda's home, he gently acknowledges everything she's been through today and tells her to rest, adding that he'll head upstairs for now. She tells him to be careful and they part ways for the evening. As Yanwoo walks back alone, a quiet thought settles over her. Relief that her family approves of him, and yet something tightens in her chest, an uneasy feeling she can't quite place. It lingers with her as she makes her way down the steps, and just when it seems like the day might end peacefully, she looks up and freezes. Lord Utah is kneeling there, one knee on the ground. The sight hits her like a shock, confusion flooding in. Why is he here? She steps closer, asking what he's doing, but before she can fully process it, he reaches out and grabs her hand. He brings up her marriage to Hyda directly, asking if it's truly happening. She confirms it without hesitation, asking him to stop, pulling her hand free. But he doesn't stop. He repeats his earlier warning that Hida is deceiving her, that Hida is the god of death, and that she, Yanwoo, is his destined bride. A messenger bound to him by fate. The words hit her like a wall. Her thoughts spiral. Is she really the bride of a god of death? What does that even mean? Utah continues, explaining that such a bride is rare, special, the only being capable of freeing Hida from the chains of his fate. He insists she shouldn't marry him, that she's being used. The tension snaps. Yanwoo cries out for him to stop, telling him firmly that she'll hear the truth from Hida himself and no one else. His words have already shaken something loose in her, and that alone unsettles her deeply. This is between her and Hida, she says. Whatever the truth is, she'll face it through him. She asks Utah to say nothing more. But just when it feels like the moment can't grow any heavier, Lord Utah slowly reaches up and removes his mask. He speaks of the day she took her own life, of how he begged, over and over, countless times, wishing that even if it cost him his own life, he could see her again, just once more. The confession leaves her frozen. She sees his face, fully, for the first time, and everything she thought she understood begins to crack apart. Her thoughts spin, unable to settle. Even if Lord Utah and Lord Hua are twins, how can he look so much like him? His earlier words echo louder now, and she can't push them away anymore. A memory surfaces, faint and distant. Someone crying, long ago. Was that him? Then he coughs, blood spilling from his lips, and the sight jolts her back to the present. She calls out to him, alarmed, suggesting they call a physician, but he simply wipes the blood away, calm, and continues. He recalls her past, how, when she first arrived in the afterlife, she wandered freely, drawn to the underground flowers, delighting in walking barefoot across the soft beds of moss. He reminds her of something she once said, that she liked the afterlife, at least until she was locked away in Hyo's palace. The truth hits her like a wave, and Yan Wu can't stop shaking. Slowly, suspicion turns into certainty. She cries out, asking if he truly knows who she was back then. He admits quietly that all he could ever do was watch from afar and feel the weight of regret. Something breaks open inside her, and the tears come freely now. He tells her, gently, that it's all right to cry, that she never got the chance to back then. For a moment, his hand almost reaches for her, instinct pulling him forward, but he stops himself, pulling back instead. He keeps his distance, even as he tells her he wants nothing more than for her to be happy in this life. But Hida, he says, cannot give her that. Not because he doesn't want to, because of what he is. Yan Wu studies him quietly, and something in her shifts. She tells him she understands, at least a little, what he's trying to say. She recognizes the concern behind his words, but her choice remains the same. She wants to stay by Hida's side. She admits it won't be simple. A whole lifetime together is never simple. But even if there are moments of unhappiness along the way, she says, it will be enough, as long as she's with him. Frustration flashes across Utah's face. She's still not understanding what he means, he says, and he tries again to explain. But before he can get the words out, pain rips through his chest, and he drops to one knee. Yan Wu's worry surges instantly. She notices this isn't the first time. He brushes it off, calling it simply the price he has to pay. She presses for more, but he gives nothing away. Instead, he places his hand gently on her forehead and makes a quiet promise. This time, he says, he'll protect her. Then, without another word, he lets go and turns away. She calls after him, asking where he's going, but he doesn't answer. He simply leaves, disappearing into the distance, and she's left standing there frozen, her hand still warm from where he touched it. Later, Yan Wu sits by the window, lost in thought, Utah's words echoing endlessly in her mind. She can't quite untangle what they mean. Then a voice breaks the silence and the door opens. It's Haida. She turns, acknowledging his return, and almost instantly he closes the gap between them and pulls her into a tight hug. He admits softly that knowing someone is waiting for him when he comes home feels good. Really good. Then he shifts, telling her something's been on his mind since visiting her family. Curious, she asks what it is. He brings up an idea, moving her family's home closer to his, recalling how she once chose to follow him just to protect them. There's a place near his estate, he says, where they could live comfortably. Before he can even finish, emotion overwhelms her, and she hugs him tightly, telling him just how much that would mean to her. But as the warmth of the moment settles, she pulls back slightly, gathering her thoughts. There's something important she needs to tell him. He gives her his full attention. She tells him about Lord Utah, about meeting him in the garden, about how he tried to stop the wedding. Hida's expression shifts immediately, surprise flickering across his face as he asks if those words were really said. She continues, Utah warned her that marrying Hida would only lead to unhappiness, that the reason traces back to what Hida truly is, the god of death, and that she is the bride meant for him. Her voice steadies as she makes her stance clear. She wants the truth. From him. No matter what it is, she asks him directly, is it real? Silence stretches between them, heavy and uncertain, and then he answers, yes, it's true. The confirmation lands like a physical blow. Shock floods through Yan Wu as everything starts clicking into place. Utah was right. All of it. Her mind races toward the obvious question, is this really all because she's the bride of the god of death? She remembers something else, too. The timing. How Hida approached her right after her hair turned white. She asks if that's connected, if the change is some kind of sign. He confirms it, calm despite the weight of what he's saying. Her white hair was the first proof. The mark on her shoulder blade, the second. In the beginning, he admits, those signs were the reason he drew her close. He believed she was the destined bride, and until he was certain, he kept the truth hidden. Confusion ripples through her. What does he mean? A lie? So he explains everything. He's not related to the Grand Duke, ruler of the underworld as she'd believed. Instead, the ruler and the god of death operate as two separate powers, each maintaining their own balance, each protecting their own position. The god of death's role is to watch over wandering souls, to maintain order among them. But false rumors about his power had begun spreading, rumors that put her in danger simply by association. His tone softens as he continues. Whatever else was hidden, his feelings were never part of the deception. He thinks back to the very first time he saw her, how boldly she'd offered herself, how she'd proposed a deal without hesitation. At first, he thought she was reckless, But over time he saw who she really was, timid sometimes, easily moved to tears, and yet time and time again she found the courage to step forward when it mattered most, no matter how much it cost her. He admits it plainly now. He's fallen for her completely. And for him, that's enough. As he speaks, he gently cups her face, and without hesitation, she leans in and wraps her arms around him. She tells him this is all she needs. He apologizes for the pain, for the confusion he caused, but reassures her once more that everything he's felt has always been real. She believes him, completely. And in that moment, wrapped in each other's arms, they find comfort in a truth finally shared between them. As the wedding preparations move forward, Yan Wu finds herself reflecting. Unlike before, when everything revolved around satisfying Hojo's preferences, this time feels entirely different. Choosing every small detail alongside Hida brings her genuine joy. Even though their time together is limited, each shared moment feels precious, something worth holding on to. One morning she's still asleep when Haida quietly enters to wake her, only to find she'd fallen asleep mid-task the night before. He gently brushes a hand over her head. Serene steps out, offering to gather the remaining accessories and telling Yanwu to rest. Sitting up, she lets out a soft sigh, thinking to herself that out of everyone, Serene might actually be more excited about this wedding than she or Hida combined. Then, a sudden noise outside catches her attention. Curious, she moves to the window, and there he is, Hida. She rushes down to him asking when he arrived, and he admits he'd been waiting for Serene to leave. Without warning, he pulls her into a hug, confessing that the reason he proposed in the first place was so they could spend every day together, and yet here they are, barely seeing each other. He even calls it unfair, which makes her laugh. She reminds him, gently, that he was the one who insisted on a grand ceremony. 5 bridal gowns, 30 musicians, a wedding split into 3 separate parts. He doesn't deny any of it, but insists, even so, that he wants more time with her. Taking her hand, he suggests, almost on impulse, that they run away. Just for a day. Before she can fully process it, they're already gone, slipping into the city together. When she asks where they're headed, he simply asks her to trust him, to follow. He assures her one day off won't cause any harm, and that he'll deal with Serene later. The carefree spontaneity of it makes her laugh, and together they spend the day wandering, buying small trinkets, picking up a book, browsing jewelry stalls. Simple joys filling the hours. As evening settles in, he tells her sincerely that the day felt special because of her, and suggests doing it again sometime. She playfully shuts that down, insisting that's a separate conversation entirely. He teases her, accusing her of caring more about Serene than him, but she counters gently, reminding him there'll be plenty of time once they're married. She talks about traveling together, as husband and wife seeing the world side by side. He laughs, admitting he can never win an argument against her. Excited now, she takes his hand and tells him there's somewhere she wants to show him, a place she loves, a place barely anyone visits. She leads him into the woods, explaining how beautiful it is, how peaceful. But the moment they look up, the peace shatters. Hojo is standing there. Shock floods the scene instantly. Yan Wu freezes, staring at him, the first words out of her mouth asking how he possibly ended up here. In her thoughts, she scrambles. This place is one she's visited only twice in her life, and once was with Haida. How could Hojo possibly know about it? Hojo breaks the silence first, almost amused, remarking that this is his first time here too, and of all people, it had to be her. He suggests they come closer, just for a brief chat. Trembling, she reaches out, and he takes her hand firmly, acknowledging almost politely that he wouldn't want to intrude on her rare day off. As they begin to part, Hojo pauses, turning to Lord Utah. He asks casually whether he's invited to the wedding, having heard the news. Utah explains the ceremony will be small, quiet, family only. Hojo considers this, then suggests thoughtfully that her father at least should be there, given how much he cherishes her. Hida agrees without hesitation, showing genuine consideration for her family. Hojo continues, asking if there's anything she'd like as a gift. She tells him his kind words are more than enough, but he insists, admitting he still feels he owes her for something from the past, and that seeing her happy would mean more to him than anything material. Yanwu watches him, struck by how different he seems from what she expected. No anger, no bitterness, just quiet care. She repeats that she wants nothing, and he accepts that, promising to respect her wishes completely, adding that he'd do anything she asked of him. Finally, he offers his congratulations on the wedding and walks away, leaving her standing there, caught between relief and lingering surprise at everything that just happened. On the wedding day, everyone gathers. Serene looks at Yanwu with open admiration, telling her she's never seen a more beautiful bride. Yanwu thanks her, warmth spreading through her chest, and in her thoughts she lets herself sit with it. In just a little while, she'll become Lord Haida's wife, ready to spend the rest of her life by his side. This will be her 3rd wedding, and yet, somehow, it still doesn't feel real. Her mind drifts back to Hojo, to the way he'd looked back then, different, almost unrecognizable from the man she'd known. She wonders quietly if choosing differently this time, choosing Hida, has finally severed whatever painful thread once tied her to him. If that's true, she thinks, then her connection to Hojo ends here. The lingering hatred, the old wounds, all of it can finally fade, leaving room for a new life with Haida. Just then he walks in, taking her hand, ready to begin their walk together, and then a voice cuts through the moment, calling out from outside. "Stop!" Both of them freeze instantly, turning toward the sound, tension flooding the room as everyone braces for what's coming. Lord Hyojo steps forward and delivers the news. The king, his father, has passed away. Until the late king's funeral concludes, he announces all state and civil events are forbidden. Weddings, markets, celebrations of any kind. Everyone, he says, should turn their attention to mourning, to honoring the king's final journey. The announcement hits Yan Wu like a physical blow. Shock ripples through the entire room. As Hyojo walks the long red carpet, he passes by Yan Wu's mother, who instinctively reaches up, holding her head, visibly unsettled by his presence. Siwoo notices immediately, rushing to her side asking if she's feeling unwell. Her mother says nothing, simply watching Hyojo's retreating figure in silence. Yan Wu stands frozen, speechless, drifting toward the table in a daze, until Lord Weeda's voice breaks through the fog. He tells her he's safely escorted her family members. She thanks him, but he waves it off, saying it's the least he could do. He apologizes, acknowledging that today was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. She reassures him there's nothing to apologize for. This was beyond anyone's control. He extends his hand, inviting her to take it, suggesting a short walk together. She agrees, and they move side by side, hand in hand. As they walk, Yan Wu finds herself wondering aloud about this strange place between worlds. Where do the dead go from here? She asks. If this realm exists as a bridge between the living and the dead. Lord Hua realizes she doesn't know the full story, so he begins to explain. This place, he tells her, wasn't created on purpose. It was an accident, a leftover space formed when the gods divided the world of the living from the world of the dead. Abandoned. Forgotten. Over time, people began falling into it from the world above, and as they settled, had children, built lives, they formed their own society. Eventually, a king emerged, much like in the living world, and the afterlife took shape around him. But even then, the gods never reclaimed it. Originally, this place served only as a passage for wandering souls. As more people arrived, those souls began consuming them, plunging the realm into chaos. Desperate, the king of the underworld prayed to Tamiya for protection. Whether the prayer was truly answered or not, a guardian spirit granted the people a way to defend themselves. Among them, one person rose with the power to command those wandering souls. That person became known as the god of death. They settle together on the balcony as he speaks, and Yan Wu listens, absorbing every word, feeling the weight of this history settle over her, a quiet understanding of the world she's found herself living in. She turns to him, asking directly, "Is he the current god of death?" He confirms it, then adds something unexpected. Lord Utah holds the title too. Confused, she asks how that's possible, two gods of death existing at once. He admits he isn't certain, though he suspects it has something to do with them being twins. He confesses he doesn't even remember becoming the god of death. One day he simply understood it and accepted it as his fate. He doesn't claim to know what each day holds, only that afterward he guides the souls onward, trusting they find peace in whatever lies beyond. As he speaks, Yan Wu's expression shifts, something flickering across her face. He notices immediately, asking if she's all right, telling her she looks pale. She hesitates, then admits something's been bothering her. The timing of the Grand Duke's death feels off, earlier than it happened in her previous life. Though, she adds, her memories from back then are hazy, clouded by the time she spent imprisoned. He smiles gently, rising to his feet, reassuring her that everything will be fine. There's nothing to worry about. Once the funeral concludes and things settle, he reminds her they'll finally be able to hold their own ceremony. She nods, comforted, and they sit together quietly, hands intertwined, letting the calm wash over them. Meanwhile, at Lord Hyojo's residence, his secretary approaches cautiously, warning him that the late king's funeral hasn't even begun, that some show of respect is expected. He suggests waiting until after the enthronement ceremony at the very least. Hyojo stops mid-step. Who, he asks coldly, decides what counts as too late? Who has authority over him? Before the secretary can respond, Hyojo slits his throat. A memory surfaces. Hyojo, much younger, standing beside his father, who told him that one day he alone would hold access to every record, every secret of the afterlife. Looking back now, Hyojo reflects bitterly. Despite all his father's power as king, he couldn't protect even one woman, and in the end his own child abandoned him. Hyojo vows he'll be different. He'll take everything he wants, and nothing will stop him. Back in the present, he surveys his surroundings, declaring that this place holds every secret the afterlife has ever buried. He searches methodically until he finds a scroll, And as he reads it, a dark laugh escapes him. They tried to deceive him, he realizes. And now, with renewed dangerous purpose, he begins to plot. On the day of the funeral, the procession winds through the palace. Yan Wu stays close to Lord Hua, taking everything in. The atmosphere feels different to her now, heavier than she remembers from before. And something about Hojo's demeanor unsettles her. Despite burying his own father, he seems almost excited, eager. It doesn't sit right with her. Lord Hua notices Hojo standing nearby and approaches, offering quiet condolences. Hojo responds with carefully measured words, thanking everyone for attending despite the circumstances. Hua reassures him there's no need for thanks, that it's only natural. Then Hojo asks for a private word. Hua's eyes narrow, but he agrees, following him away from the crowd. Once they're alone, Hua asks what this is about. Hojo's expression shifts, almost pleased, as he reveals he's discovered something interesting. People say, he tells Hua that he's the god of death. Hua's stomach drops. Hojo knows. Hojo continues, his tone almost apologetic now. He admits he misjudged Hua before, owes him an apology, even thanks him for quietly protecting the afterlife alongside his father all this time. Immortality, he muses, must be an exhausting burden. Then he adds that he's been looking into something else. The bride of the god of death. Contrary to the rumors, Hojo says if Hua finds his bride, he can transfer his power entirely. And for everything Hua has endured, Hojo promises to help however he can. Hua is left reeling, caught completely off guard, unsure how to even respond. From a distance, Yen Wu watches the exchange, unable to make sense of what just happened. Hojo simply smiles, offers a parting take care, and walks away, leaving Hua to process the weight of what's just been revealed as the funeral continues around them. A moderator steps forward, scroll in hand, calling everyone to rise. He speaks solemnly, honoring King Zhang Gong, the foundation of the underworld and father to its people, urging everyone to pay their respects and pray for his eternal peace. As Haida and Yan Wu move through the crowd, Hojo watches them, closely, calculating. The moderator finishes, and Hojo steps up to deliver his own remarks, thanking the guests, honoring his father's lifelong devotion to the kingdom, and acknowledging the condolences shared throughout the day. He closes by wishing everyone safe travels home, and the crowd begins to disperse. Haida tells Yan Wu it's time for them to leave as well, and she agrees. But just as they turn to go, a voice calls out from across the room. Yan Wu turns to find Se-hong, Hojo's betrothed, approaching with an introduction mentioning the recent news of Yan Wu's upcoming wedding. Se-hong explains she'd love to offer a small gift and asks for a bit of Yan Wu's time, just to get to know her better. Yan Wu, caught off guard, finds herself reflecting. Se-hong has always been hard to read, never overly warm toward her, never seeking favor from Hojo either. She decides this is likely just a polite gesture and tells Se-hong she'll reach out soon. Se-hong looks surprised, but pleased. Later at Hojo's palace, he sits sipping tea when Se-hong enters. She explains, simply, that as his future wife, it's only natural for her to check on him after the funeral. As she pours him a drink, she brings up Yan Wu, acknowledging Hojo's interest and offering her quiet support with the situation. For a moment, Hojo is caught off guard, realizing there's far more calculation behind Se-hong's words than he expected. And yet, somehow, her presence shifts the tense atmosphere of the palace into something a little lighter. The next day, Yan Wu and Lord Haida share a quiet moment together, hands intertwined, savoring a rare stretch of peace. Just as it seems they might have the world to themselves, Serene interrupts, announcing that a guest has arrived asking for Yan Wu. Confused, Yan Wu wonders if it might be Si Wu, though she doubts anyone would come looking for her at this hour. The guest steps forward, and it's Se-hong. She greets both of them politely, and Wida immediately asks what brings her here. She explains she had some business in the area, wanted to pay her respects, and also brought a small gift for Yan Wu, asking if she might spare a little time for a walk together. Yan Wu hesitates. Doubts swirl in her mind. Se-hong is Hojo's fiancé, and the question lingers uncomfortably. Is it really wise to spend time with her? She glances toward Haida, searching for reassurance. Haida notices her hesitation and leans in, speaking quietly. Se-hong, he tells her, has a solid reputation among the women of the underworld. She wouldn't act recklessly. He encourages Yan Wu to take the walk, suggesting some fresh air might do her good. He adds gently that she should bring Serene and Soho along just to be safe. Grateful, Yan Wu thanks him quietly, comforted by his support. Se-hong notices the small exchange and smiles, her demeanor calm and warm. As the group sets off, the mood is a mix of curiosity and cautious trust. Yan Wu can't help but wonder what's really behind Se-hong's visit, even as Haida's reassurance settles something in her. The path leads to a place that feels instantly familiar, her favorite spot, where a waterfall cascades gracefully into a still pool below. She can't help the small gasp of delight that escapes her. Se-hong smiles, telling her she'd suspected Yan Wu would love it here. As they settle by the water, Se-hong asks, curious, what life was like on the surface. Yan Wu's mind drifts back. The endless blue sky, hiking with her father who would carry her on his back when her legs grew tired, climbing steadily until they reached the peak, where the sky stretched out forever. That view, she admits, is what first made her fall in love with the sky, a feeling she still carries with her. Se-hong calls it a beautiful memory, then asks more gently if Yan Wu is truly all right now. Yan Wu hesitates, and Se-hong points out, softly, that she can no longer see that sky she loves so much. But Yan Wu reassures her. It's okay, she says. She's found something she loves even more. Se-hong chuckles, noting the closeness between Yan Wu and Hida, a remark that catches Yan Wu off guard. Then Se-hong opens up about herself. Raised in the palace from childhood, groomed to become an empress, her engagement to Hojo arranged long before she had any say in it. Palace life, she admits, looked glamorous from the outside, but it was lonely. Unlike Yan Wu, who'd grown up surrounded by love, by real marriages, real bonds. Hearing this, Yan Wu realizes just how little she's understood about what Se-hong has been through. Se-hong gestures toward a small box and hands it over, revealing a piece of jewelry that Yan Wu immediately adores. Overwhelmed, she thanks her, unsure she deserves something so precious. Se-hong insists, taking her hand, and asks simply if they could be friends. People she can truly trust, she says, are rare. Yan Wu agrees happily, thinking how wonderful it would be to have Se-hong as a friend, alongside Hida and Serene. And then, without warning, Se-hong shoves her into the water. Serene and Soho rush forward, alarmed, but Se-hong is already pulling Yan Wu back out herself. Once on dry ground, Yan Wu turns on her, demanding to know what that was about. Se-hong explains calmly. The jewelry was a genuine gift, one fit for the future mistress of the palace. But the push, she says, was a different kind of gift, a celebration of their new friendship. Then, her tone shifts. She warns Yan Wu plainly, Hojo is targeting her. He intends to eliminate Hida in order to claim her for himself, and in exchange for sharing his plan, Se-hong asks for Yan Wu's help in securing her own position. The moment is a tangle of warmth and warning all at once, friendship and threat arriving in the same breath. Yan Wu, shocked and furious, rounds on her. How can someone who just threw her into a lake turn around and ask her to gamble with Hida's life? The words spill out faster than she can control them. How is she supposed to trust someone this unpredictable? Se-hong stays calm. She admits she expected this reaction, explaining that Yan Wu, coming from the surface, doesn't yet understand how things work down here, especially how dangerous Hojo truly is. She points out carefully just how alarming it is that he set his sights on Yan Wu specifically, and urges her to think hard about who that makes most vulnerable. Then she apologizes for the water. It was a test, she admits, one Hojo himself requested, meant to check for a mark behind Yan Wu's shoulder blade. Realization crashes over Yan Wu. That mark. The implications. She understands now fully what it means to be the god of death's bride. Her expression hardens, and she says nothing, letting the weight of it settle. Se-hong, reading her silence correctly, gives her space, telling her it's fine if she's not ready to talk. She mentions the upcoming coronation banquet for Hojo, suggesting they speak again there, and turns to leave. But Yan Wu can't stay quiet. She admits, suddenly, that she already knew, and that she would have agreed to help even without the test, without the deception. Se-hong pauses, listening, then smiles. Perhaps, she says, the test was simply the fastest way to be sure. She reassures Yan Wu, sincerely, that her offer of friendship was real, and departs, leaving Yan Wu to sit with everything that's just happened. Warning. Trust. The fragile beginnings of an alliance, and the growing weight of what she now has to protect. When they return, Lord Hua is waiting at the gate, helping Yan Wu down from the chariot, asking if the journey went smoothly. She begins recounting everything Se-hong told her, and his disbelief grows with every word. He asks if she really said all that, and she confirms it, emphasizing that the most important part is the proposal itself. As they talk, she fills him in on everything that's happened in the underworld since they last spoke. His shock deepens further. He recalls the funeral, the private conversation with Hojo, the moment he learned he was the god of death, and how Hojo had spoken then of helping him find his bride, hinting at what such a bride could mean for him. Yan Wu asks directly what being the god of death's bride actually means. He admits he didn't fully understand it himself at first. Discovering his own power brought with it an overwhelming need to find someone, because only the bride can set the god of death free. She asks what free means. He explains quietly. The god of death would lose their power entirely, becoming human again. To some, eternal power might sound like a gift, but to him it's a curse, the inability to grow old alongside the person he loves. She processes this, then asks how the bride accomplishes such a thing. He tells her she'll understand naturally if she spends a night with the god of death. The full weight of what that means settles over her. He warns her then that if Hojo intends to kill him, He'll first try to take the god of death's power for himself. For now, he decides, accepting Sehong's proposal is necessary. A few days later, Hojo's coronation takes place at his palace. At the close of the ceremony, he announces a hunting banquet, revealing he's released a creature called the Ray Beast for the occasion. Across the room, Yan Wu's eyes meet Sehong's, an unspoken understanding passing between them. As Hida prepares to leave on horseback, Yan Wu warns him to be careful. He reassures her, mentioning he'll be meeting with Sehong later. Before he goes, he kisses her forehead, telling her to stay safe, and they share a brief, comforting embrace. He watches from a distance as she insists he needs to go, and Serene steps forward to escort her. As they walk, Yan Wu asks Serene to wait, pausing to gather her thoughts. This place, she reflects, still feels wrong somehow, even after all this time. The animals released for the hunt only deepen that unease, stirring memories of her past life, of the hunting competition where she first crossed paths with Hojo. The memory is cut short when she spots a tiger far deeper in the forest than it should be. Startled, she steps back, trips, and falls. The tiger lunges. She braces for impact, closing her eyes as blood splashes across the ground. She expects to see Hida. Instead, she opens her eyes to find Hojo standing over her, asking if she's hurt. Her heart pounds, fear and disbelief crashing together. Meanwhile, deeper in the forest, Lord Haida notices someone standing quietly among the trees, Lady Sehong. She greets him with calm composure, expressing genuine surprise and pleasure at running into him. He asks if she'd been planning to meet Yan Wu, but she tells him simply that she's more curious about him and asks for a moment to speak privately. Back at the hunting ground, Yan Wu's mind is still reeling. Hojo standing nearby, the lifeless tiger at his feet, the smell of blood, the memory of red hair caught in the wind. She realizes with a cold clarity that all of their misfortune traces back to this very place. A flashback pulls her under, voices scolding someone, warning them not to overstep, demanding they pay attention to their surroundings. Si-woo, wanting to step in, being held back. Yan Wu telling her to stay calm, to wait, even as Si-woo quietly resists, frustrated by the unfairness of it all. In that memory, she leans against a tree, thinking how wrong this place feels. The sky overhead gray and distant, nothing like the blue sky she once loved. Then the tiger charges, snapping her back to the present. It's killed instantly. She opens her eyes to find Hojo standing before her, concern written across his face. She thanks him, wiping away tears, reasoning to herself that the beast must have strayed from where it was meant to be for the banquet. But then she hesitates. Does she really owe him gratitude? He's the one who brought these dangerous animals here in the first place, the one who insisted she attend, despite knowing she has no interest in hunting. Hojo, unbothered, asks if she dislikes the banquet, offering to make it even grander for her, asking if the food suits her taste, encouraging her to be honest. Confused, she tells him plainly that he seemed to dislike her since the moment they met, that she assumed this entire banquet was arranged to embarrass her. He denies it, insisting there was never any ill intent. All of this, he says, was simply to see her smile, to make sure she was safe, and he reminds her gently but pointedly that without his intervention just now, things could have gone very differently. Lady Sehong watches Hida carefully, the forest around them thick with unspoken tension, past and present colliding in ways Yan Wu can barely process, caught between memory, fear, and the tangled web of relationships closing in around her. As Yan Wu steadies herself in the forest, she looks up to find Hojo kneeling on one knee before her, calm, deliberate. He asks how she ended up so deep in the trees, and she explains she must have taken a wrong turn, apologizing for the trouble. He brushes it off, saying it's fortunate he happened to be nearby. Then he repeats a question she's heard from him before. How does she intend to repay someone who saved her life? The familiarity of the words catches her off guard. He notices her pale face, asks if she's feeling unwell. She insists she's fine, but he observes gently that she must still be shaken. He offers his hand to help her up. She pulls back, and then the words come pouring out. Her disgust for places like this, for people who despise her behind polite smiles, for pretending out of obligation, for watching animals suffer for entertainment. She tells him plainly, this was her last banquet. They won't be meeting again. She thanks him simply for saving her life and walks away, leaving him standing there in silence, the forest swallowing the moment whole. Back at Hojo's palace, a messenger bursts in, breathless, calling out for him urgently. Hojo turns, curiosity sharpening. What is it? The messenger, trembling, explains that word has come from the outskirts. Hojo presses him to continue, and the news lands like a thunderclap. The bride of the god of death has been found. The weight of it settles over the palace instantly, and in that moment, every thread, the forest, the banquet, every path that led Yan Wu here, pulls tight, anticipation hanging thick in the air. Deep in the mountains, Hojo advances with his army toward a woman said to be the god of death's bride. Startled, she looks up, asking who he is and why he's traveled so far into these mountains. A guard barks at her, demanding respect for the ruler of the underworld, and she immediately drops to the ground, apologizing, asking what brings someone of such importance to this remote place. Hojo explains, since taking the throne he studied the lineage of the god of death and learned her late husband held that title before. He says he couldn't ignore the sacrifices made to protect the underworld, that the legend continues until a new god of death is chosen. As he speaks, she begins to tremble listening to him describe the cruel fate awaiting the god until that succession happens. Forced to fight vengeful spirits for eternity, trapped in an immortal body, he declares he intends to support the god of death however he can, and for that he needs her help. He asks if she knows how the god of death can be freed. She answers honestly, only the bride can do it. When the god of death and his bride share a bed, the power transfers to her. From there she must find the next god of death and pass the power on, freeing the original. Hojo considers this, intrigued, wondering aloud if there's another way. She insists she knows of none. He questions how he's supposed to trust her, doubting whether she's even the true bride. The lineage records, he says, only mention her late husband. He'd searched for the previous god of death himself, but found him already dead, so he came for her instead. And he wonders, coldly, what use she'll be if she turns out to be nothing. Desperate, she swears on her late husband's memory that she's telling the truth. That gives Hojo pause. He asks if she remembers who received the god of death's power from her. She recalls a tall man, black hair, a wolf as his guardian spirit, though his name escapes her. Hojo concludes she might be useful after all, and orders the guards to restrain her. If she sleeps with the god of death again, he says, they'll find out whether any of her power remains. She protests, insisting she's lost all of it, that she's nothing more than an ordinary woman now. But he's unmoved. They won't know until they try, he says, leaving her certain the king has lost his mind entirely. The weight of it all, of destiny, of power that might or might not return, presses down on both of them. Back at Lord Haida's residence, a gift arrives from Lady Sehong. He opens the letter and reads that rare white flowers, out of season, bloomed overnight in the palace, flowers that noble houses have searched for across generations. She urges him to come see them before they fade, and sends along a banquet as well. Yan Wu, watching quietly, notes that the food arrived with the letter. As they examine the flowers together, something catches her eye, a single strand of hair. Hida picks it up, confirming the flowers are indeed blooming out of season. Impossible under normal circumstances. Then he remembers Hojo's words about helping the god of death find his bride, and a cold realization hits him. This hair might belong to the previous god of death's bride. Yan Wu's thoughts race. If these flowers really do mark her presence, then she's in the palace right now, in danger. Hida reasons they can't let Hojo uncover the secret. They need to get her out immediately, before disaster strikes. Yan Wu asks if he plans to go to Hojo's palace himself. He reassures her, nothing bad will happen. Meanwhile, at Hojo's palace, Hida slips inside, certain this must be the room Sehong meant. But something feels off. A strange scent hangs in the air, and his eyes land on a woman lying on the bed. He wonders if this is the one whose hair was sent to him. Then the door opens. Hojo steps in, and Hida freezes, demanding to know why he's here. Hojo reminds him, almost lazily, that this is his palace. Of course he's here. Then, he delivers his command. The woman on the bed is to share it with Hida. Shock and fury crash through him at the sheer audacity of it. The room fills with tension as everything converges at once. The danger surrounding the previous bride, the secrets of the lineage, the clash between Hida and Hojo's authority. Hida confronts him directly, shaken, furious, unable to comprehend why he's being forced into this, pushed to betray the person he loves. For another woman, he refuses outright, turning to leave. But before he can take a step, he's shoved backward, hitting the ground hard. The shift in power is immediate. Hojo notices something's wrong, pointing out his sudden weakness. And as Hida struggles to rise, the feeling in his body clicks into place. This is the same sensation from the day Miss Dan Hoi drugged him. The strange scent. It must have been the same thing. Hojo watches calmly, almost amused, warning that moving like this could be dangerous. He suggests Hida simply stop resisting and rest. Furious, Hida demands to know what's been done to him. Hojo's response is mocking. He reminds Hida of his own past wish, to find a bride, to escape the burden of being the god of death's envoy. All he's done, Hojo claims, is grant that wish, bringing him a bride. And instead of gratitude, all he gets is anger. He makes it clear resistance won't change anything. Then he turns and walks out, confident, certain that in the end, Hida will sleep with the woman regardless. The tension lingers in the empty room, leaving Hida alone, helpless, drugged, and furious. Outside, Yan Wu waits. She clings to his promise that nothing bad would happen, but her heart won't settle. Every passing minute deepens the unease building inside her. She can't act. All she can do is wait. Then a sound from the right pulls her attention. She turns just in time to see Lord Haida's chariot arriving. Without thinking, she rushes toward it, calling out desperate to know if he's alright, if he's hurt. But the door opens, and it isn't him. It's Se-hong. Shock floods through Yan Wu. She demands to know why Se-hong is here, alone. Se-hong's answer is grim. Everything went wrong. Hojo intercepted their letters. The tension spikes instantly. Yan Wu demands to know what's happened to Hida. Has he been captured? Her voice rises, edged with panic, pointing out that he trusted only Se-hong, and yet here she is, returned without him. Se-hong cuts her off sharply, warning her to watch her tone. Then she turns the accusation back on Yan Wu. What exactly has she done besides wait? This entire situation, Se-hong says, exists because of her. The words land hard. Yan Wu's anger collapses inward, turning to guilt. If she'd never been here, never been part of any of this, Hida wouldn't be in danger now. And yet, a question surfaces too. Why did Se-hong even come looking for her? She has no power here, no way to fix any of this. But instead of breaking down, something in her hardens. Her expression shifts, resolve settling over her features. She turns to Se-hong and tells her firmly to take her to the palace. She'll face Hojo herself. Moments later, she arrives, walking forward with heavy thoughts pressing down on her. She reflects quietly on everything that's brought her to this point. In this life, she'd never wanted to cross paths with him again. She had wished more than anything to forget everything he'd done to her, to let go of the hatred she'd carried for so long, and to live as though none of it had ever happened. She'd hoped, too, that letting go might finally bring her something close to happiness, even just once. But standing here now, she understands. That hope was nothing but a foolish dream. Hojo notices her, surprise flickering across his face as he recalls her own words from before, that they'd never meet again. And in that instant, something settles in her. No matter what she does, no matter how far she runs, this cursed fate will always find her. So this time she decides she'll end it herself. With that resolve burning inside her, she steps forward, knife held tightly, walking toward him with quiet, unshakable determination. Elsewhere, Lord Haida lies in agony, a strange burning sensation spreading through his chest, each breath harder to draw than the last. Beside him, a woman lies close, and in his clouded state he believes it's Yan Wu. The thought feels familiar, almost natural. He's seen her this way so many times before. Without thinking, he pulls her close, holding on as though she truly is the one he's been longing for. Back in the palace, Yan Wu stands before Hojo. He beckons her closer, but she doesn't move, doesn't speak. Her silence seems to delight him, and he laughs, telling her exactly this, is why he likes her. She asks what's so funny. He tells her, almost wistfully, that seeing her brings back memories of his late mother, a flood of longing she didn't expect. She says nothing in return. Instead, her mind drifts back to the chariot, to Se-hong's warning. Hojo's true goal has always been her. Everything that's happened, all of it, was orchestrated to bring her here. And if she walked into his palace willingly, Se-hong had said he would be pleased. Pleased enough, eventually, to let his guard down. That moment, however brief, would be her only chance. Back in the present, she asks him plainly, why does he want something from her when she's never understood his reasons in the first place? His answer is vague, deflecting. He turns it back on her, suggesting that she must want something too, since that's the only reason his beloved would be taken. She doesn't hesitate. She demands Hida's release. There's no other reason she's here. He asks almost mockingly why she'd come looking for that man, here of all places. But she makes it clear. He already knows the answer. With nothing left to say, she steels herself and asks him directly to return the man she loves. Her boldness draws another laugh from him. He drifts into memory, recalling the time she once played the piano for him. Ever since then, he tells her he's summoned musician after musician, hoping to hear it played the same way again. None of them ever managed it. So he had them all killed. The words land heavily. She remembers. Suddenly, Miss Danhoy's warning that those who played the harp for Hojo never lived to walk away. The cruelty of it, the sheer pettiness, settles like a stone in her chest. And still, she orders the harp brought to her. If this is what he wants, she'll give it to him. For now, her resolve hasn't wavered. It's only waiting for its moment. Yonu closes her eyes and recalls the very first day she played for Hyojo. Back then, Lord Haida stood beside her, gently encouraging her to continue after noticing how uneasy she felt. The memory warms her heart and gives her the strength she desperately needs. Drawing courage from the past, she raises the instrument once again and begins to play. When the final note fades, she immediately demands that Haida be released, just as he promised. However, Hyojo simply shakes his head. One performance, he says, is nowhere near enough to earn such a wish. Rising from his seat, he calls her naive and calmly reveals his true intention. The first step, he explains, is making sure she never leaves his side again. Yonyu is furious. She insists that Haida must be released first, or she has no reason to obey him. But Hyojo walks closer and firmly refuses. He reminds her that Heda is the god of death, an immortal being. If he were to release him, he would only return to take his life. Furthermore, until Heda is no longer the god of death, freedom is simply impossible. Hearing this, Yonyu argues that if he truly wishes to stop Heda's power, then releasing him is the only option. Yet Hyojo dismisses her words and reveals something he learned from the former god of death. According to him, the power of death can only be passed on by lying with his bride. Then he raises a horrifying possibility. If the former bride were to be with the current god of death, would the power still transfer? The question leaves Yonu speechless. Hyojo notices her reaction and merely smiles, telling her they will discover the answer in time before turning to walk away. But just as it seems the conversation is over, Yonu acts. She swiftly pulls the knife hidden inside her dress and lunges forward. Hyojo turns at the last second, yet the blade still plunges into his shoulder. He immediately grabs her wrist, stopping her before she can strike again. Holding her firmly, he asks one final question. He has heard rumors that she is the bride of the current god of death. If that is true, then could being with her grant him that power as well? The mere thought disgusts Yonu. Anger flashes across her face as she denounces him. Yet before she can pull away, Hyojo suddenly drags her closer and forcefully kisses her, turning the moment into something even more disturbing. Yonu struggles desperately to escape. However, in that brief instant, she manages to slip something into his mouth. Hyojo immediately senses that something is wrong. He pushes her away and stumbles backward. The knife lodged in his shoulder falls to the ground as he stares at her in shock. "What did you make me swallow?" he demands. At that moment, the story shifts into a flashback. Earlier, Shang had handed Yonu a small pill. He explained that it was a powerful sleeping drug capable of sending someone into a deep sleep, almost as if they had died. But Yonu questioned how she could possibly make Hyojo take it, especially since it could not dissolve in water. Song simply smiled. There was an easy method, he said, one that only she could use. Even something as simple as a kiss should not be difficult. Though embarrassed and hesitant, Yonu eventually placed the pill in her mouth, knowing the decision had already been made. Back in the present, Hyojo finally understands everything. He realizes that Yonu anticipated his actions and expected him to kiss her. The absurdity of the situation makes him laugh, yet his laughter does not last long. The drug quickly takes effect, and his body gives out beneath him. He collapses heavily to the floor. At the same time, a guard outside hears the commotion and calls out, demanding to know what is happening. Realizing this may be her only chance, Yonu picks up the fallen knife and prepares to finish him once and for all. Unfortunately, the guard rushes in before she can strike. The moment is lost. As more guards are summoned, Yonu abandons her plan. Instead of risking capture, she slips away. Right now, nothing matters more than confirming Lord Haida's safety. Elsewhere, Lord Haida is struggling. A strange, cold scent fills the room around him. The woman beside him smells different from before, and the unfamiliar scent immediately puts him on edge. Summoning his remaining strength, he forces himself upright and pushes her away. Slowly, he begins to understand what is happening. But before he can fully react, the woman knocks him down again. He begs her to stop and manages to shove her onto the ground. Yet suddenly, she cries out for help, leaving him completely bewildered. As he stares at her, he desperately tries to remember whether he has seen her before. Just then, Silu enters. Lord Haida, still weak and disoriented, tries to make sense of everything. However, Silu quickly urges everyone to leave, explaining that Yonyu is waiting. The moment he hears her name, his expression changes. "Is she safe?" he asks immediately. He tries to move towards Silhu, but his body betrays him. His legs give out, and he collapses. Fortunately, Soho steps forward and catches him. Meanwhile, Soho turns to Silu and asks what should be done with the mysterious woman. Silu decides to bring her along. She has far too many questions, and the journey ahead will provide plenty of time for answers. At the same time, another problem remains unresolved. Hyojo is still alive. As they approach the chariot, the story shifts to Silhao's thoughts. She remembers telling Yonu that as long as Hyojo lives, he will never leave her alone. But now, a dangerous idea begins to form. If Yonyu succeeds in killing Hyojo, then Silhu herself may no longer be needed. Worse still, she could become an obstacle to her own ambitions. The realization plants a dark seed in her heart. Just as everything seems ready to proceed quietly, Yonyu suddenly runs out of the palace. Watching her approach, Silhu makes up her mind. It would be better to end everything now. The thought sends a chill through the atmosphere. Yonu arrives before Silhu, panting heavily as she apologizes. She explains that guards flooded the room before she could kill Hyojo. Silhu remains silent for a moment before nodding. With security that tight, there was little Yonu could have done. Besides, even if she had succeeded, escaping would have been nearly impossible. In Silhu's opinion, Yonu made the correct choice. She quickly urges everyone to board the carriage, explaining that she has already prepared a safe place where they can hide for the time being. Yonu climbs inside. The moment the door opens, she sees Lord Hida lying within. Her eyes widen, and she immediately rushes to his side. However, another concern soon enters her mind. Will Silu come with them? After all, Hyojo has already uncovered her plans. Once he awakens, he certainly will not forgive her. Yet Silu remains calm. No matter how cruel Hyojo may be, he cannot kill her. Her family's influence protects her. If he truly intended to harm her, she says she would already be dead. Hearing this, Yonyu reluctantly accepts her words and wishes for her safety. The carriage soon departs. Silu stands alone, silently watching it disappear into the distance. Hyojo is still alive, she thinks, and perhaps he may still prove useful. Later, Hyojo finally awakens. The moment he opens his eyes, rage consumes him. He screams at the chief security officer and smashes a plate in fury. He cannot believe they allowed his enemies to escape after he waited so long. The officer desperately begs for forgiveness, claiming he acted only out of concern for his lord. But Hyojo's anger only grows stronger. He draws his sword and orders the man to be silent. Then a woman's voice suddenly calls out. Hyojo turns. Standing there is Yo Hung. She approaches with a worried expression and explains that she rushed over the moment she heard his health had deteriorated. At once, his mood softens. For the first time since awakening, he smiles faintly and admits that he has been waiting to see her. However, with the blade still clutched in his hand, suspicion quickly rises within him. He narrows his eyes at her and questions her betrayal. How dare she return after secretly contacting Hida? What could she possibly be plotting? In response, she immediately puts on an emotional act. With tears in her eyes, she defends herself by pointing out that he was the one who hid the truth about the envoy's bride from her. Furthermore, she reminds him that her actions successfully lured both Hida and Yanwu to him. Then, with a hint of curiosity, she asks how someone as powerful as him could have collapsed so easily. The question irritates him, but she remains perfectly calm. Even if they manage to escape, she says, there is nowhere for them to run. The only place left for them is the underworld, and that realm belongs to him. More importantly, Yanwu's greatest weakness has always been her family. If they use that against her, victory will be inevitable. Slowly, her words begin to soothe his anger. He lowers his weapon and quietly considers the plan. Meanwhile, at the safe house, Quita suddenly awakens and immediately calls out for Yanwu. The moment he turns and sees her lying safely beside him, relief washes over his face. Without hesitation, he pulls her into a tight embrace. Still, confusion lingers. As he looks around the unfamiliar room, he begins to wonder where they are and what kind of place they have been brought to. Just then, a voice calls out from outside. Lord Ha instantly becomes alert and demands to know who is there and where they are. The voice politely explains that this location is a safe house, prepared by Sheng, and reveals that the speaker is one of her subordinates. Hearing Sheng's name surprises him. The guard continues, explaining that he received direct orders to take excellent care of the three of them. The word immediately catches his attention. He slowly looks around the room and notices another figure lying nearby. It is the same woman from before. The guard outside adds that they will continue watching over the area and should be summoned if anything is needed. Soon, silence returns. Lord Ha falls deep into thought, trying to remember exactly where he has seen that woman before. Later, as he steps outside alone, his thoughts grow heavier. Is this place truly safe for the young lady? And more importantly, can Sheng really be trusted? Even though he once promised to protect her, he knows the truth. Without Sheng's help, he would already be dead. Still, there is one thing he cannot forgive. The only reason he spared Hyojo until now was because Yonu wished it. But things are different now. A line has been crossed, and because of that, he silently swears that he will tear that man apart. Just as his resolve solidifies, a voice suddenly comes from above, as if it has been waiting for the exact moment his mind became clear. Startled, he quickly looks up. Standing there is Lord Utah. At that exact moment, a sharp pain pierces his head. Confusion overwhelms him, as he wonders how Utah suddenly appeared before him. Then memories begin to surface. In a flashback, he recalls meeting a mysterious woman long ago. She was the bride of the former god of death. It was she who met him on a lonely road and bestowed upon him the title of god of death. The memory leaves him stunned. How could he have forgotten something so important? Furthermore, he clearly remembers being alone that day, the very day he became the god of death. With that in mind, he stares at Utah and asks the question weighing heavily on his heart. How did he become the god of death as well? As far as he knows, he was the only one who was chosen. Utah merely sighs. He places one hand on Lord Ha's head and the other on his face before slowly removing his mask. There is nothing but disdain in his eyes. He calls him pathetic. Pathetic for not understanding his own power. Pathetic for believing he can protect her while remaining so ignorant. Then Utah reveals an even greater mystery. There has always been only one messenger, yet now there are two. How could such a thing exist? The answer is simple. They are one and the same. Those words strike Lord Ha like lightning. He freezes where he stands, unable to comprehend what he has just heard. Does that mean he and Lord Utah are actually the same person? Utah confirms it without the slightest hesitation. The shocking truth leaves Lord Ha speechless. However, the conversation soon shifts toward Hyojo. It quickly becomes clear that both of them share the same goal. They want him dead. Lord Ha admits it openly. He wants to kill Hyojo because that man caused his lady's death twice, and continues to place her in danger. He cannot allow this to continue any longer. Despite the confusion still lingering in his mind, he believes that Utah must feel the same way, and because of that, he asks for his help. He asks for strength. But before he can finish speaking, Utah cuts him off. The answer is cold and merciless. He will fail. Alone, he cannot defeat Hyojo. The words shake him deeply. Failure? How could that be? If Utah also wishes to kill Hyojo, then does he intend to simply leave him alive forever? Especially when Yanwu can never find happiness as long as that man continues to exist. But Utah's response carries a painful truth. They have already tried to kill him before, and they failed. The revelation stuns him. When did that happen? Why can't he remember? Suddenly, another memory bursts forth.